Because that trailer, I don't know if y'all watched that trailer. He got bit.
Yeah.
He got bit. And somehow later on in the trailer, he got all these powers. So
damn, you're right. You're right. Damn, I didn't even make that connection. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is
everybody getting bit, huh?
Everybody getting bit and they getting powers. That's
how you
right
get
now.
Powers.
Welcome everyone to Hard Mode Selected. And I'm Phil Special Meter.
What's up, y'all? Hello. Just Drado here.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Skipper Finn.
And we are Hard Mode Selected. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. We like pop culture. We like geek stuff. We like movies. We like comic books. We like all sorts of things. And you know what all these things, all these different IPs and whatever have in common? Remakes, reboots, sequels or requels, the long after the fact sequel, and they also get adaptations. So we're gonna be talking about that today in the episode. All kinds of just basically bringing something back around, the Runback, if you will. We're gonna be talking about that and the art of it, and when does it work, when does it not work, what are we excited for, what are we not excited for, that type of thing. We also got some news and some trailer reviews coming up on this episode as well that will tie into our main topic. And I said so that's my first of the episode, so we can just keep that right in there.
Counter.
It's over. It's done.
but we got some new trailers and some new news, and we're gonna talk about this phenomenon in those trailers and in all those sections. So before we get into all that, I like to start us off with something nice and breezy. So I call this "What You Doing?" Skipper Finn, what you doing?
What am I doing? I'm an actor in Detroit, and currently I am in rehearsals for this really cool British farce of a play, and we've been having a really good time just in rehearsals for it. And so we open in January, and that's what I've been doing with my time, other than like playing video games and just trying to make it surviving. But
that's all we trying to do, man.
And it's tough nowadays for millennials in particular. So, but that's a whole other cry and a whole other podcast.
It's true.
That's what's up. Somebody asked me, because I figured Drado should go last.
No.
Oh yeah.
What you doing, Phil? What you doing? What you been doing lately?
We had this completely planned and organized. I promise you. I have been, honestly, I've been burnt the fuck out. I've been doing a lot of things. One of the things I'm very excited about recently has just been really working on this podcast. I feel like this has just been something I've been excited to pour myself into. I'm excited about what we got going. I'm excited about our team. But outside of all of this, I've been getting back into streaming. I took a long break. I took a break from Halloween was my last stream. And then I took a break all the way until like the the second week of December, something like that, first or second week of December. So it was a nice break, and you know what? I needed it. I talk about mental health and taking care of your whole self, your whole well-being on my channel a lot, and I had to take my own medicine. I just needed a chance to put that down for a little bit, and it gets scary sometimes. People in the content creation world, if you take a break, often it's frowned upon, and even some of your supporters may just be like, all right, I'm out. Like, you're not providing every week, so I'm bored, I'm out of here. And so it can be a scary thing to do, but I always knew I was going to prioritize, being as healthy as I possibly can over anything else. So
yeah,
it was a good break. It really got me some time to get back in touch with some other hobbies, some other passions, some other things. So I've been cooking on that. I've also been doing some PA work locally here in Los Angeles, and that was cool. And I've been submitting auditions after audition after audition after audition.
Oh yeah.
So getting some callbacks in the mix. So you never know, one of these might break open. But in the meantime, I'm just thankful to be able to do the fun creative things I get to do.
Nice.
That's what's up.
That's always important.
Thank you.
What about you, Drado?
Yeah,
Man,
what's going on over there, man?
What am I doing? First and foremost, I want to say it's really dope to hear you and Bill and Skip's journeys with your acting and seeing all the things and hearing all the things that y'all doing is very motivating for me personally, as an actor as well. I've been diving into voice acting as of late. And,
Nice.
You know, this past summer I was able to do voice acting lessons, and I had this really, really dope instructor. Shout out to Chip. He helped me a lot with the basics, the ins and outs of the whole process, and you know, me getting new equipment, me deciding to take a break from Twitch as well. Last stream was Halloween as well. I took the month of November and some of this December and really honed in on voice acting. So doing auditions, getting my setup right, getting a better mic, just practicing, learning, teaching, and all that stuff. I've just been in the zone of getting on this journey of voice acting, which has been really fun. I've been having a good time with it. And thank you, Phil, for all the Instagram stuff you've been sending me, because it's been like I've been actively making sure I stay on top of anything that I see that has, you know, voice acting attached to it, whether it's a film that needs a voice actor or whatever the case may be. I've been watching like a hawk. And, it's been really fun doing these auditions. But it is good to have this equipment that I got for it, because now I can use this in my streams that I've started, you know, doing again. I've come back. I'm back on Twitch. For those that want to check me out, it is twitch.tv/just_Drado. And it's been good. It's been really refreshing and kind of fun. This time around, even though I've been gone for a minute, I forgot how much fun I have when I'm able to just chill with people that I you know talk to and know, and just playing video games, and just, you know, it's my passion. So I feel like when it's your passion, that's when it's the most fun. I mean, yes, it's work, but you know, it's if you're not having fun while doing the work, it's for me personally, it's not going to keep me interested in it. I would rather like what I'm doing and enjoy what I'm doing, and not, you know, be the opposite. But other than that, I've also been getting into the Christmas spirit, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but it's the holidays. It's the first time I'm not sick during the holidays. Last year I was, and it was terrible.
Oh no.
So no, I've been watching Christmas movies. We decorated. I wrapped gifts all yesterday, last night, and Friday night. I've been having a blast getting into the Christmas spirit. So yeah, that's really what I've been doing, and I've been having fun, man.
What's up?
Yeah, no, I appreciate y'all for sharing that. I feel like this is a good time to talk about stuff that's happening in the news right now. Phil, I know you had some. What's some of the ones that you
yes. This is especially by the time this airs, this is not like news in the sense that it's new, but it's recent enough. I was excited that Superman Legacy has cast their Lex Luthor, and I wanted to ask you guys how y'all felt about this. So, for those who don't know at this point, somehow, Nicholas Hoult. If you remember X-Men First Class, he was Beast. He's done a lot of other good stuff. Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor. And we don't know much about what this version is going to be like. Obviously, we've had some different iterations over the years, from Gene Hackman to another celebrity who was in trouble, Kevin Spacey, to Jesse Eisenberg, which was a very, very different take on Lex Luthor. Like
very different.
Very different.
Yeah, very young billionaire, like Gen Y almost, like just sort of like I have lots of money and I'm kind of a punk about it and whatever. But like, yeah, we have a bunch of different iterations of the character. I don't want to leave out Michael Rosenbaum, even though he wasn't big screen. Like, Michael Rosenbaum was a very defining take on Lex Luthor.
It's
so
notable. Yeah.
Yeah. And Clancy Brown, the animated series as well. But like, what do y'all feel about Nicholas Hoult being the big bad for? We don't even know if he's a bad guy yet, but like being Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy.
True. Superman Legacy is supposed to be. Is this origin? Is this before?
This is young Superman. I think from what James Gunn was saying, it's not a straight up origin story, but it is like early in his Superman, at the beginning of his Superman career, kind of.
Okay, so this is okay. Similar to how Batman had his the most recent Batman had his like his second year as being 2 years being his Batman. Got you.
Yeah.
I like Nicholas Hoult. I like him a lot. I've seen him in various different roles. He's projected characters in various different ways. He's not like that typecasted same role type of actor. Especially when you look at him in roles such as Beast from X-Men, and then look at roles like he had in the Max Steel Fury Road movie. Two completely different roles, but still his take on it.
Oh wait, he was in Mad Max?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great film. I like that. I like that movie. It's a good film.
Yeah.
And I think the most recent thing I seen him in was Renfield.
Yeah.
That was the most recent thing I seen him in. Killed it. I enjoyed him in that film. Lex Luthor, I think for me is I'm so used to seeing Lex Luthor portrayed, or I guess visually looking a specific way. I can't see it. I can't see him looking like him, but again, it could be like the whole Jesse Eisenberg thing where it's like maybe it's just a different take on how this Lex Luthor is going to look. Again, you say that we don't know if he's going to be a villain or not, so I don't know if this is like his good days, I guess. But I guess I would need to see, and then I guess I haven't seen him enough in like the villain role either. So I would, and again, I don't know if Lex Luthor is a villain, but I would like to see. I would need to see it before I can like say how I feel about it. Right now, my feeling is I would have went with someone else personally, but I can't just I can't just say he's not the right one or not the choice, because I felt that way about a couple of casting choices in previous projects where they did their thing, and I was like, okay, yeah, he did his work, he studied, he did that role pretty well, so maybe he'll pay homage to the character and do a great job. But for right now, I don't know who else they had in mind, or if that was their first decision. I know with DC, or like any superhero, anything DC and Marvel, they're always casting like early on and having these picked before the project is even released. So no, I think for me it'll depend on who they're gonna cast as Superman. I think for me, because did they already cast?
Yeah, they already cast.
I'm behind then. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, because I was gonna see if I can
they
see
cast a lot of folks.
I was gonna say if I could see whoever's, and I'm sure you're gonna tell me, whoever's casted as Superman and Nicholas Holt's character on screen together, I can see it. Who's being cast?
David Cornsweet. Cornsweet. I don't know how to pronounce it properly.
Yeah.
Corenswet.
He's very new.
Cornswet.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Superman. Now, what I will say about him is he does have a look where I'm like, yeah,
he has
sure,
a
he can be
quality about
Superman.
him.
Like,
I can see, yeah, he's an attractive man.
So Ryan Murphy recently created this show on Netflix called Hollywood, I think it was.
Okay.
Where it was really like the young ins and outs or like I don't want to say it's like the 30s or the 40s version of what Hollywood was, and you get to see it from a lot of different aspects, from actors, from writers, from people trying to make it big. And he was one of the main characters, one of the main roles, and he definitely looks the part.
Yeah.
Okay. He has a sense of innocence about him, which I think is really, really cool. He has the height as well. He has that Clark Kent handsomeness. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely looks the part. But I think he's a good choice, honestly. Just because he has a sense of being able to play Ernest very well.
That's good.
But also has like a little bit of he has range.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is really, really good, just because you could see all different facets of Superman, from Red Sun to New 52. Like, you have no idea where they're gonna take it, but I think it's really, really cool in terms of casting right now. With Nicholas Hoult, I'm looking at the rest of the casting, and him being plugged in there, I kind of have to respect their decision. I will not know until he comes about, but Nicholas Hoult is one of the most, what do you call it? He's a big chameleon. He's not afraid of taking like a really weird role. Sometimes a lot of his roles he's played have been very much in the Comic-Con realm. If you like, there was Jack the Giant Slayer. There was Warm Bodies, where he played a zombie. And recently Renfield and playing the Beast. So I think he is willing to go the extra mile, whether it be experimental. I think he's gonna give the director what he needs, in terms of, because he's got range. I think he's very much, I could see him playing because Lex Luthor is very dejected. He's very upset in terms of Clark Kent or Superman getting all this attention a lot of the time, and there's all these intertwining layers to Lex Luthor, and I think he has the ability to be able to give that. Rachel Brosnahan is also playing Lois Lane, which I think is a phenomenal choice. She was the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, cool.
I haven't seen that one.
So she has won Best Actress in a comedy series for a couple of years now. Initially, when the marvelous Mrs. Maisel opened, I think, or premiered, she won for that opening season, and then subsequent years after. Also, the guy who's playing Jimmy Olsen is Skylar Gisondo. Skylar Gisondo is a Jimmy Olsen if I ever saw a Jimmy Olsen. I don't know if you guys saw Santa Clarita Diet.
No.
Actually, no. That's the one where they were eating each other, right? Is that Drew Barrymore?
Right. Yeah, Drew Barrymore. Yeah, she becomes somewhat undead. Yeah, he played the next door awkward neighbor who was falling in love with the edgy daughter, I guess you could say.
Yes.
But he plays awkward incredibly well.
Yeah, he does it well. Yeah.
And just like that youthfulness, that kind of Tom Holland-esque nature, I guess you could say, that you would expect from a Jimmy Olsen.
He's pretty adorable. Just looking at the picture they have on IMDb. I'm like, he looks,
He's actually really great, and he looks and feels like how you expect for Jimmy Olsen. So coupling that together with David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan and Skylar Gisondo, like looking at them from a package deal, I'm assuming that they might have hit the mark with Nicholas Hoult, because I think they just wouldn't phone it in, and I think he might have knocked that audition like way out of the park in order to.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
I'm curious to know who he beat out.
Me too.
That's always an interesting thing that people will bring up. And you know what's funny? I think that like years after somebody's been in a role, I don't know. The lists are interesting to a degree because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I can see a version of that with this actor. But usually by that time, I'm just sort of like, now I mean, like, there are a bunch of people who are up for Iron Man, right? But like,
right, I was thinking the same thing, like Tom Cruise,
who else,
like,
right? You know, like,
exactly.
You know, people like to bring up that for Batman Begins, they almost went with the actor who Cillian Murphy, who played Scarecrow, and I'm just like, well, he auditioned and he gave a good audition, but they realized, nah, he's not Batman, but he's gonna be something else. And even he thought,
boy, a villain.
Yeah, he's gonna be something else. So it's interesting to get those lists. I will say for my piece of this that I like that a lot of this cast are people I haven't seen a lot of in this type of project.
Agreed.
So, you know, that was something I really enjoyed about the Chris Reeve era. He's not even my favorite Superman, but I love that Chris Reeve was just kind of plucked from obscurity. He was just a good actor. He came from this strong theater background, and he gave this take on Clark Kent Superman that nobody else had thought of, doing this Jerry Lewis thing with Clark and doing this, you know, this other thing with this leading man thing with Superman. And he took it absolutely seriously. He took it like, hey, I know this is a children's character or whatever, but like, this is an acting role I've been hired for. I'm gonna do the thing. And so I like that this casting so far seems to have that energy of like, doesn't matter how you've seen them before, if you've heard of them before, we're just going with extremely talented people. And so I guess when it comes to Nicholas Hoult, my thing was I immediately got excited because I'm just like, he's so good. And you know what? I think that when I look at him in the lens of Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor's interesting because he's like one part mad scientist, one part like savvy businessman, one part like murderous thug, like, you know, kind of has that kingpin thing where like, yeah, I'm rich and like, you know, I'm white collar, but like, if you catch me in the alleyway, I will put you down. So like, I think Nicholas Hoult has this sort of like, I could see him having this sort of smarmy, super intelligent, but don't push me, I will murder you thing going on. And I kind of like, he has like a serial killer like right underneath the surface type of vibe. Not Nicholas Hoult as a person, you need. But just as an actor,
I know
he can bring
that.
Yeah. So I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I think he'll do a great job. I'm excited to see what he does with it, and I feel like they can go a lot of different avenues, and I think that they chose a good Lex to be able to do that with. Of course, there are other folks, but I think he's got good range. I wouldn't have thought of him.
No, same.
You know, like I wouldn't have. I don't think he was anywhere on my radar, but I'm kind of safe with it just because everything I've seen him in. His performance has been forward.
That makes sense.
Like I've seen him in so many things where he's done a great job. Like you said, he's just wouldn't have been like my pick. So I would love to see it, like to really understand why they chose him.
No, same. That's a good. I always think that's a good attitude. Just like, let's see what they do. Because like after Heath Ledger, I stopped. I quit. I swore up and down Heath Ledger was a dumb pick for Joker, and then he ended up being the best live action Joker. So I'm just like, in my opinion, my favorite live action Joker. I'll put it that way. And you know, I'm just like, well, what do I know? So every time a new casting happens, and plus being an actor, I have to be empathetic. I'm like, look, I'm sure there are things I will get that people are gonna be like, that dude, really? And I'll have to, show up. So,
and they're around the same height too. Like they're tall guys. Like
Yeah, Nick's tall. Yeah, he got height.
David Cornsweet is actually taller than Nick by by an inch. So to be able to like see those matchups, I think it would be really cool.
I think so too.
But anyway.
But speaking of casting and casting calls, I do have one more piece of news before I hand it over to Drado. But like, we got that really spontaneous a couple weeks ago. That's really spontaneous Karate Kid announcement, and it blew my mind. I mean, I was just like, the implications of this. We don't have anything on the script yet, but the implications of having Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan present that they are doing together. They're in and they are part of a new Karate Kid film was pretty earth-shattering for me. And they're also they're doing a nationwide search for the new Karate Kid, whoever that's going to be. And it looks like it's going to be a Chinese character, a Chinese, they want a Southeast Asian Chinese like actor to take on this role. So I'm very interested in what that's going to be about. But how'd you guys feel hearing this? And also, do you think this confirms that the two versions of the Karate Kid exist in the same world, or do you think it might be something else?
No, I think they do exist in the same world. I feel like, and even if they don't, it's still cool and really dope to see them. But if they're reprising their same roles, with Jackie Chan respectively is Mr. Han, I think his name was, and then
Mr. Han,
Danny LaRusso, obviously. If they're reprising those same roles and coming together, I would be in, and they're not like in the same universe, I would still be like, hey. That's fine with me. I think it's really dope, and the fact that they did that whole like casting to search for the new Karate Kid to send it out to the public instead of just doing like a regular casting call, like actually sending it out there to someone who hopefully really knows martial arts and can capture that on film and still be good at acting. I think is really, really dope and exciting. I know a lot of times when you're casting for a karate film or even a Karate Kid film, it's kind of hard to find someone who can act and do the martial arts. But I think Cobra Kai nailed it in terms of the casting for that show, because a lot of those kids really do martial arts outside of their acting, and they still acted really good, because the show isn't made to have like the best acting, because it can't come off as corny, because the setting is like, it seems 80s theme, but it's in our set is in the modern time, in our current times. So it seems like it's a little weird going into like watching it for the first time and not knowing like what's really going on. But I love the aesthetic of it and how they shoot it and do it and incorporate all that in the show, because the kids still act their asses off. They do a great job. I like the emotion is still there. Like it's believable, like all of that stuff. I'm super excited for it. I'm a huge Jackie Chan stan, so I would watch it regardless of what it was. I don't care what it was. I still would have been on it. I'm excited.
Just recently watching or hearing Jackie Chan and the new like Mutant Mayhem with TMNT was really cool. Like he did a phenomenal job. When it comes to the Karate Kid, like I'm really excited to see where they're gonna take it. What I found was really cool about the original Karate Kid was that he was not big in martial arts. He didn't know much about it, and he was trained into that effect. And so to watch someone possibly go from I don't know what they plan on doing, honestly.
Right. We don't have any details.
We have no details, so like it's the possibilities are endless, especially with, I don't know if the Cobra Kai writers are having anything to do with the film. I think that might be why the film is coming about, because they're doing so well with the show. I think the way that they talked about like how they could write endlessly for this, because they are in fact lovers of Karate Kid themselves, that they've envisioned all of these different like multiverses of the Karate Kid for themselves. I think that's what made it so incredibly experimental. So they had to have come up with something that is like a really, really great script for Jackie Chan to be like, okay, I'm in on this. You know what I mean? And for them to come together. And so like, and then on top of that, they must have written something really, really great for like this brand new kid that they felt the need to do a nationwide search. Like, let's open it up as opposed to going Canadian or going, because a lot of the time when I'm watching Cobra Kai, it feels very much like the new Power Ranger shows that are filmed over in like Canada, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there was a whole school fight at one point where it was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool, these matchups, like going head to head. Like I thought I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, just because it was so cool, because it had been leading up for seasons all the way up until this huge school brawl, and it felt very much like Rocky breaking his back in Turbo, you know what I mean? Like, so like it had all those moments, those elements, and so I'm excited to see what they do when they take it from Netflix and or maybe is it still through Netflix, or is
Well, this is the interesting thing. I'm glad this all came up, because the thing is, a lot of the Cobra Kai actors had no idea this was happening. So that's one detail to know.
Snap.
Like Sholo and his boy that he runs his the podcast with, who plays Hawk. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. My bad, dude. But you know, they were talking about it, and like they didn't really, like, they weren't informed that a Karate Kid movie was happening, and then they did kind of find out it was happening, but like nobody's talked to them about it. So my thing is, because Sony essentially owns the Karate Kid, so and we know how Sony behaves.
Pictures.
So, I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to be divorced. The only thing that gives me hope is that Ralph Macchio said yes, because Ralph Macchio has turned down a lot of offers to do Karate Kid stuff before Cobra Kai came along. Like for years, that man was hounded with like, we've got a script, and like, you know, Danny's like, you know, maybe like drunk and like is getting divorced, and like he's like, no, I'm good. You know, he's like, I'm good. And he, you know, the fact that, again, to your point, Skip, the fact that these guys were so in love with Karate Kid, and they really were really talented at weaving a spin-off in Cobra Kai that felt authentic to what Karate Kid is, but also modern enough so that new people can get on board and not feel like this is so weird and dated. So like they did a really amazing thing. I just don't know that Sony Pictures contacted them or you know, even tapped them for this new movie. And I think that would be an unfortunate missed opportunity, because they've reinvigorated the franchise with new interest and new eyes, and even bring some old fans like me back. So and they did a thing with Cobra Kai that, like, it's so good that it actually makes the movies deeper. And I think that's hard to do. So I don't know where they're gonna go with it. I want to know how this all connects. I hope it's just not, because when Sony handled I'm not on a tangent, but Sony handled the Ghostbusters reboot in 2016. It was a hot mess of just like, well, it's a continuation, and then they're like, actually no, it's a reboot. Like right before it came out, they're like, hey, actually this is a different universe. And I'm like, you just gotta get your story straight, Sony. And obviously we see what they do with Spider-Man and all that stuff, which we'll get into. But like, I honestly the only hope I have is Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan, like y'all said. Like, again, they both don't have to take any old bullshit at this point. So if they're in this, I have to believe that they have some sort of creative say in it. Like they had, like, and that they were listened to, and that there's something enticing about the roles. So I really hope that that's what's going on. Again, Jackie Chan, I've been a fan of since I was like a kid, and I said then, and I still believe it now, I would watch that man read the phone book. he's just that entertaining to watch.
He's so entertaining.
So entertaining, man.
And shout out to Ralph Macchio as well, because like he knows that character inside out of Daniel LaRusso, and he brings so much life to it. So and as far as the kid they get, whoever this new kid is, you know, shout out to Asian representation. You know, if this kid doesn't know martial arts, that is also fine, because like Skip pointed out, like the most of the formula of the Karate Kid usually is new kid in town doesn't know how to defend himself, right? Yeah. And they've done such a great job every time. Like Jaden Smith learned kung fu and got really good at it. You know, the guys they had for Karate Kid for Ralph Macchio, like really made sure he and the actor who plays Johnny Lawrence made sure that they looked good. And, you know, obviously the guy who plays Johnny decided to keep up with it over the years, which is great. And I think with Cobra Kai, they did a lot of the same. Some of the kids may have had some previous experience, but I think most of them, they just had to learn the fight scenes. And Hollywood's so good at that now. So especially if you got Jackie Chan involved, you would obviously probably take some pointers from him as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
We saw what they did. We saw what he did with Jaden Smith. Like Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, they did a great job making. I don't know if Jaden Smith had any prior experience or not, but even if he didn't, he did a great job.
Yo, that crying scene, yo, like I want to go home, like that. Yo, I hate it here. It was all awesome just because I felt his pain. You know what I mean? Like he was getting his ass whooped every day, and his mom.
You saw how those kids was whooping his ass in that movie.
Yo, I love that movie. So many people dog that movie. At
school, like, and look, so it rooted for you to get back to him. Yeah, but go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say, original Karate Kid is an American movie classic. However, the remake, though I think it's mistitled because he learns kung fu for sure, but like the remake, the remake, I feel like it just had the same soul as the original, but like new characters, new circumstances, slightly. Like they took the spirit of the Karate Kid and they put it in this you know, this Chinese like kung fu, you know, setting. And I thought that like to this day, Jackie Chan is Mr. Han. That is my favorite like dramatic performance from him, because I don't get to see as many dramatic roles from Jackie because he's so great at comedy and he's so great at action. And a lot of people, once you're in that stunt world, they don't try to give you any more opportunities. So like, oh, you're an action guy, you stay in that lane. But like the depth of his character as Mr. Han really had me in tears, and I was just like, that's such a great movie. Such a fantastic movie. I wish they wrote like a single word of dialogue that was like, maybe if Dre had taken 1 or 2 karate classes and he got teased about it, like, oh look, it's the Karate Kid, I would have bought that as the title. But I'm just like, there's no karate in this movie.
Nah, that would have been dope. No, I
will say this.
No, go ahead.
Oh, really quickly, I will say this: that it is being written by Rob Lieber. Rob Lieber. His list is not all that great, which kind of scares me a little. But the fact,
what has he done?
I'm resting. So Peter Rabbit.
Okay.
Goosebumps 2.
Okay. Okay.
Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
To be fair, I haven't seen it. I love the book.
And and that's where we go. That's what we have.
That's the writer?
Okay.
That's the writer. He's a film producer as well, but for the most part, that's what he's written. So I don't know if they signed on early.
And another thing about it,
and we were also in this writer strike too, so
that's true. And it's kind of tough too, because you gotta also remember it's Sony. Also, you know,
Sony
that's attached to this project. And like Phil mentioned, we've seen Sony and what the stuff they released. They're cash cows, bro.
They going
go
for the cash.
They get great properties, and then they just milk them without any forethought of like the quality that they're putting out.
It's unfortunate.
Agreed.
But I want to give Jackie Chan his flowers some more. You mentioned, Phil, about his acting. We don't get to see the dramatic side of him in acting, and it reminded me of this one movie I watched where we did get that, and I always wanted to see more as well. I don't know if you have ever seen The Foreigner.
I remember the trailers for that because I knew that was was like a political thriller type drama thing.
That film portrayed his acting abilities very well with the dramatic acting. Like he not to give too much away, but this is said in the trailer. He loses his daughter, and the way he loses his daughter is, man, the way you would have thought that he actually lost his actual kid. Like, he did it so well. The way he started fighting later on in the film, I felt the passion behind it. It wasn't just like the typical action of like a I don't know, a Rush Hour, or like the action he does in whatever action film he does. It was like passion, like really heartfelt passion behind it, and it was really remarkable. So I love to see him in his dramatic roles. So shout out to Jackie, man.
Shout out to Jackie for real. I also want to throw out there the Shinjuku incident, which was like in 2009.
Okay.
Also very dramatic. There's action in it, but there's a very dramatic turn for him, and I thought that like he's very understated. Nice. Shout out to, people don't understand, like, when you understand storytelling on the level that Jackie Chan does, when you understand comedic timing, when you understand how to pace and block a fight scene, because like people don't understand that like action is storytelling. When it's done properly, it's an extension of the characters and what they're going through and where their mind state is at that moment. And so when you understand storytelling the way that Jackie Chan does, he's of course going to be capable of these great things. He's just
so good,
phenomenal.
He's so good.
I 100% agree. And he's been doing this for so long, like since the 70s. Like, he's been doing this forever, and still giving his all. Like the love he has for just film and acting and all this stuff that he's doing. Like, to have that passion still doing stuff, like it's inspiring, honestly.
He will be 70.
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
He will be 70 next year, which blows my mind, just because it doesn't. I mean, you should never really like act your age. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like none of us really do, but he definitely does not. Like, looking at that trailer of them announcing the new Karate Kid, like I would have never thought that I was laying my eyes on a 70-year-old man.
70-year-old man. Yeah. Shout out to Jackie. Somebody else who's been doing this for a long time. And we talked about him off air. Eddie Murphy, who just recently dropped a Christmas movie. He has another film coming out. He's been in the game a long time, and Beverly Hills Cop is back.
Yes,
they got a new Beverly Hills Cop movie. I don't know if y'all grew up on these films.
I did.
My father definitely put me on, even when I wasn't supposed to be watching them. Eddie Murphy was a character or an actor in our household that we watched everything that he dropped. Like, we watched everything, even his comedy stand-up stuff. We watched everything Eddie Murphy did. I don't think I missed a Eddie Murphy film growing up. So I love the fact that he's back. I know he took a long hiatus. He lost his brother. He went through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Rest in peace, Charlie Murphy, man. He went through a lot. To see him back though and having fun with it still, like, he doesn't have to do this. Like, he did the Coming to America. He did the sequel. He did the what was the one he came back? The first one.
Dolomite is my name.
Dolomite, yes, Dolomite. That was the other one he came back with. The Christmas movie he has now, and now this Beverly Hills Cop. I don't think it's 4. I think it's just Beverly Hills Cop. Axel Foley.
Axel
I think
F.
is the name of it.
Yeah,
Axel F. Yeah. You're right. Axel F.
Interesting name.
No, shout out to him for even wanting to do that. Like he doesn't have to, but you know, if they reach out to him and it's a good script, because I know a lot of times when you have movies that were a long time ago and you try to do like a 20-year sequel, Bad Boys did this. They were like, we're not doing a film until the script is right, because you know, with Bad Boys, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were asked over and over again, when are you gonna do another one? The script ain't right. So I'm assuming with Eddie Murphy the same thing happened and the script was right for this one. Do we need it? I don't know. I don't know if we need it, but I mean, I'm sure there are fans out there that are like, they're okay with it because it's Eddie Murphy, and maybe it's one of those things you could just go into it to have fun. It's not necessarily, it doesn't make sense, is it too late, blah blah blah. Maybe it's just, you know, just to have a good time and just to see the character return again.
Eddie been cashing in.
He has
he has been resurrecting his old films for the past couple of years now. Coming to America, I wanted to like it. It was not what I expected it to be at all. I was really expecting for like this second coming. I think they were trying to recreate the magic from the first one. But it's hard to do that when you don't have the same writers.
Nope.
And you have these people who are writing from a fan standpoint. Sometimes it could be hit or miss, you know, because we were just talking about how Cobra Kai, those writers were fans, and so then they wrote all of these different things. So Eddie has been killing it. There have been times when I've been a little bit afraid, just because Eddie could come out with something that's really, really great, or it could be a miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have been rocking for Eddie since way beforehand, but like Dreamgirls, when he got snubbed, I felt like that Oscar snub made me want to be in his corner more than anything. You know what I mean? Just because I felt like he really, really deserved that. He put his all into that, and he was a really, really bright and shining star, as he usually is, but he really stole the show in certain moments with that. I am really, really excited to see the new Beverly Hills Cop, just because I grew up on the third one, I think it was.
Okay. Where that's an interesting one to grow up on.
It was the amusement park one, the Wally World or something like that. I can't remember. I don't want to say Wally World.
I remember it very well.
But it was one of those films where, I don't know, it was those 90s action films where they took place in like a kiddie type of area, like Kindergarten Cop, or you know what I mean? Like it was, and so I just thought it was like really, really cool. I didn't know that there were any predecessors until I got a little bit older. And it's ridiculous considering that it was Beverly Hills Cop 3. Like, I know. Right?
Or two others.
I know there were two others, but I never had the opportunity to be able to see it just because it used to come on cable TV. And, you know, they showed Beverly Hills Cop 3 like all the time. And so it was I'm excited to see where this character goes and where they tend to take it. It looks very gritty as well, but it still holds the comedy aspect because Eddie is, you know, pushing it. He's he's doing, he knows that character, you know what I mean? Like, and so they filmed right outside my job.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah,
in Detroit.
Nice.
And so I thought that was really, really cool. So I was already like, I kind of want to see it, even just to see the moments that I saw them filming. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm excited to see what they do. I hope it's not coming to America. But after Candy Cane Lane, I have a little bit more stock in Eddie, just because That was good. It was really good, and I went in not expecting a whole lot. Just your word, Drado, and I came out thoroughly, like really happy that I actually watched it. You know what I mean? Like I actually took the time because I'm not the biggest like Christmas movie type guy, but when I watch them, I love them. You know what I mean? Like it takes me a moment to actually get into the spirit because then you got to get into like all these different versions of like all I want for Christmas is my two front teeth and like all these different versions of like these Christmas carols. So I thoroughly enjoyed Eddie. So I'm excited to see how that trailer pans out. I think it's really cool.
No, I'll have to check out Candy Cane Lane for sure. I have not seen it, and Drado did recommend it, so I was like, I would have skipped it.
I don't give bad recommendations.
I would have skipped it.
I promise. I don't give bad recommendations, y'all.
But I was like, all right, Drado likes it. I'm gonna check it out because like same thing with the live action Full Metal Alchemist films. That is my favorite. The 2003 anime is my favorite anime. And I was just like, I haven't seen it. I'm gonna skip these live action movies, even if they are from Japan, just because I feel like you can't really capture the essence of Full Metal in a film. But I was like, that's fair. But Ray likes it and Drado likes it. That's two pretty strong endorsements. I will give it a watch.
Yeah. I'll give it a watch. Bad recommendations, Phil.
As far as Beverly Hills Cop coming back around, you know, since that is what this episode is about, I feel like this falls into that requel category, that long after the fact sequel category. And those are just really hard to pull off. We don't have a lot of, in my opinion, we don't have a lot of good ones. So
agreed.
I'm not even, this isn't even a dig at Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is amazing, amazingly talented, but I just feel like I have a natural distrust of any of these types of things where it's like, hey, 20 years later, I'm like,
still fighting crime.
You know, like,
not retired, comes out of retirement.
Even watching this trailer, I was just sort of like, the music gets me excited. But that's always the trick they use, right?
Yeah,
you know, like the Jurassic World movies, they got that music.
Yeah.
You know, Star Wars, the sequel trilogy had that music, right? Like the Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls had that music, and it gets you all nostalgic, and you're like, oh shit, and then you realize, I mean, this movie was all right, you know, like, and I don't want that to happen again. So I'm a definitely wait and see on this movie. Beverly Hills Cop was one of my favorite franchises growing up. I love those movies. I imagined being Axel Foley, and honestly, this most recent one, the stunt team reached out to me to work on it. I unfortunately could not take the job because I'm here in La La Land, and they're like, you gotta be local. I'm like, fair, that's fair. But I appreciate y'all thinking of me. So like, I was excited to hear they were doing another one. I'm glad they shot a good chunk of it in Detroit. I think that's dope. So I'm rooting for it. I choose not to get excited about these things anymore because it very rarely works out. And that's even with some of the heavy hitters like Star Wars. I'm like, I love Star Wars, but that sequel trilogy, it didn't go anywhere. And I was like, man.
And
that sucks.
I agree. And it's unfortunate because we already got that from Eddie Murphy with America, like Coming to America, like Skip said, and it wasn't it at all. And it just doesn't help in his case. Now, it's not Eddie's fault. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not because he's a bad actor or any of that. It's just those writers, man. When they weren't there during that era, during that time of like the original Beverly Hills Cop films, it's like, how do you capture that if you weren't there with Eddie and them? Like, unless it's the same, I don't know if it's the same writers or not, but if you weren't there during that time, it's kind of hard to, and I think Bad Boys did this as well, because they also got new writers for their new film. And you could definitely tell it wasn't like the original two. Like it was completely different. It's tone, like the characters, everything. It was like
it felt like Fast and the Furious 17.
Yes, with DJ Khaled cameoing.
And
truly.
And that's something that really
Miami. Like it really, felt like
really has to be examined whenever you're bringing something back around. Is like, okay, who do you have? What's the writing team? Do they understand the cadence of this thing? It's not. You can't just write. You just can't just bring the characters back and stuff. You gotta actually understand the spirit of what you're doing. Which is why Star Wars is smart to get J.J. Abrams to direct The Force Awakens, because he understands how to like. That's his whole directing career, is just kind of copying or fusing someone else's style with his own storytelling tools. But like I look at Beverly Hills Cop, and I'm thinking, when I watched the trailer, I had the same feeling when I watched the trailer for The Flash and involving Michael Keaton. I was like, there's some of the lines where I'm like, oh, he's hit this again. He's in the pocket. And there's some of the lines where I was like, I don't know, is he just trying to recapture his performance, or has he actually? And I watched The Flash, and I think Michael Keaton nailed it, just to be clear. But like sometimes when it's been that long after, I don't blame you. And when it's that long after the fact, an actor might struggle to like really feel like that character again. Some actors, it's like they didn't left. No time has passed. Like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, fucking nailed it. Nailed it. So did Hayden Christensen. They fell right back into that pocket.
Yeah.
But sometimes you catch a performance and you're like, oh, it's been too long. You don't know how you're not capturing the essence of that dude anymore, that person anymore. And that's tough. So I don't know how this is going to turn out for Eddie Murphy. I'm not doubting his skills. I'm just saying that's just a hard thing to do from a writing and acting standpoint. It's a hard thing to do, which is what makes Cobra Kai, once again, such a weird exception. Where they're like, they weren't there at the jump at all. They're just fans, but they got in there. So
yeah, and they had like you said, the with Cobra Kai, they had like the material of the Karate Kid to kind of, and they incorporated that in the show, which really helped bring back the old fans and mix them in with the new fans. And I just really hope, like you said, the Beverly Hills Cop movie is good. It's really tough when you have a movie that's like so old and keeping it still fresh and alive, because and this brings me to Ghostbusters. Now it's like this franchise has been around, if not the same era, close to it, 90s, 80s, I don't know when it came out, but Ghostbusters has been around forever, and it's a huge fan base of Ghostbusters out there. Now I have not seen the most recent Ghostbusters film. I have not seen that one.
Me either.
On the same boat.
I don't even know where I could watch it. I think I tried to look for it and I couldn't find it anywhere. But I think it came out, I think during the pandemic. I could be wrong, maybe before, I don't remember. But it was a film that I didn't hear anything about. I don't know if it was good. I don't know if it was bad. I did see the trailer for it, but I don't know anything about it. Now, my only I guess opinions on the Ghostbusters franchise is the one that Phil, you've seen, which was the 2016 one with the all-female cast. And
when I was done with the Ghostbusters franchise,
that one was like, all right, I think I'm done with Ghostbusters.
That's so ironically,
probably why I didn't watch the last one.
No, same. So ironically, I didn't even show up for that one. I saw the trailers for that one, and I was like,
okay,
this ain't hitting.
So it was just Skip and I that suffered. Got you. Because it was not good. It wasn't. And it's unfortunate because each one of those ladies are remarkable. Like each one of those actors were.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Really dope.
Yes. That was what's so upsetting when I saw the trailers. I was like, okay, you have this incredible cast, and each of these women, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones. I forget who the fourth one is. I know her, but I can't remember her name. But like, all four of them are dope. All four of them are
McKinnon.
Yes, Kate McKinnon. Thank you. They're all hilarious. They're all hilarious and talented, but the jokes in this trailer are like, and the special effects in this trailer are like, and I was just like, and you got Chris Hemsworth in there, who I love. But I'm just like, his character's a complete buffoon. Like,
oh, it's abysmal. Man.
I'm like, look at like, I know this is a tangent, but like, look at the original Ghostbusters movie, and it's like, when you look at their, I'm trying to remember her name. But when you look at Annie Potts' character,
Annie Potts,
when you look at her character, I was trying to remember her character's name. As their secretary, she was smart. Yes. She didn't take their shit. She was good at her job. All of that. But then they're like, hey, let's flip it and let's make this dude a himbo and just eye candy. And I was just like, that seems super lazy. Also, that I only have these strong feelings about that movie because I do love Ghostbusters, but if it sucked, that doesn't really matter because, like, then you forget about it. But like, my issue is that the studio and the director and some of the actors, unfortunately, took the stance of, if you didn't like this movie, it's because you don't like women. And I'm like, that's messy, because I understand that a lot of people did shout it down because they are misogynistic and they suck. Like, those people are always going to turn up. I mean, we saw what happened with the Marvels recently. Most downvoted trailer to ever come out for anything on YouTube. And then the movie hasn't performed well. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of that is sexism. But with Ghostbusters, you can't just lump everybody together. Like, I was rooting for y'all. Y'all didn't show up with anything. Y'all didn't show up.
Yeah, the same. I agree. They should have cast Nicholas Hoult instead of Chris Hemsworth. I felt like he would have given. It was the writing. It was just the bad writing.
Yeah, it's not.
It was the way that they set him up. Yeah, it was the way that they set him up to be like this piece of eye candy who didn't necessarily think for himself or he didn't. And I think it came from a standpoint of, this is how women view men. And then it came from a standpoint of, let's make the women incredibly smart. To a point where the writing and the jargon and what they're talking about is going completely over your heads, and like them meeting together and getting together and like bouncing ideas off of each other was supposed to be cool to watch these women do that, but then it just became this thing of, it's like, I'm not interested. Like I don't care this much about these characters. I don't care, like, and then they're thrown into this world, and it wasn't enough novelty in how they met. It just seemed like they were thrown together. I don't know. It felt rushed and forced.
That energy was all over it, because like my thing was they looked, and I'll get back to the actual Ghostbusters movies we were talking about now, but like my thing is with that one, I haven't had a chance to go off on it. But like my thing was, I was immediately like, look, I understand that like a bunch of well-meaning men, like Paul Feig, the director, Paul Feig, he director, and I'm sure producers and stuff, a bunch of well-meaning men who probably have some liberal views were like, we're gonna make this dope-ass empowering, women thing, and it's just like, okay, but like you still have to make them characters, and they still have to, they have to be believable. Like the Ghostbusters that I grew up loving, male or not, they just seem like they seem funny, but like the comedy was a bit more grounded. Yeah, Egon was super weird, and Ray was a little weird, but like they didn't feel so broad. They didn't feel like, even though they were SNL actors, they didn't feel like SNL characters. They felt like, I can meet a Peter Venkman. I could definitely meet a Winston. Like I've met a Ray before. Like they felt like people, and they had a real connection. And again, the spirit of making those films, those first two films, was, we just have this weird idea, and we have these talented people we want to work with, and we're just going to do it. And I miss that energy behind filmmaking in general these days. Just
agreed.
Taking a chance on a weird idea and working with people you want to work with who you know are talented. Here, they have a bunch of talented people, but like, it didn't feel like they put any time into the idea. And my thing is, they were upset like that we kept comparing it to their male counterparts. But I'm like, look, first of all, that franchise is built off of an iconic movie, right?
Male foursome,
And then you make this version, and okay, you made it all female. That's dope. But like, if you really wanted to flip the script, change the game, why is it still 3 white people and 1 black person? Like, why did the one black person have to not be a scientist? They did that to Winston back in the day, but guess what? In the original version of Ghostbusters, Winston was going to be a scientist. He was going to be at the start of the movie. He was going to be Eddie Murphy, which ties in. Eddie Murphy took Beverly Hills Cop, so he could no longer do Ghostbusters. So when that happened, they downsized Winston's role, and they're like, all right, well, we can just get started with the 3 of us. And they're like, well, we still want there to be 4 of them. So why don't we have Winston be retooled and come in the 3rd act, and we're going to make him a guy that is the average man's perspective. We're going to make him the grounded one who's not a scientist, who's not into this paranormal bullshit, but he has some common sense about him, and he knows the city and he knows people. And they're like, and they retooled that role to fit. And I'm like, okay, you have a chance to write a whole new Ghostbusters story since you decided to not make it connect, even though you marketed it like it was going to connect. But it's a reboot. I'm like, all right, cool, fine. You're starting over. Then why aren't there more women of color in the group? Why aren't they all scientists? Or at least why can't the black person be the lead? Like, if you really wanted to push the envelope, you could have done so much more than what you did. But what they gave us was like female parodies of the characters we already knew from the original films. And I was like,
agreed.
Yes, that's what they gave us.
Agreed. They were trying to capitalize on that Bridesmaids.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what it felt like.
I felt like they were trying to extend that type of phenomena of women being funny. We know that. We get that because they can be. But the reason why that was so amazing was because they were distinct characters, and you spent time caring about those characters. And even they had, like, even for the smaller roles like Ellie Kemper and the woman from Reno 911 who escapes me. She's in the Goldbergs too. She's mom on the Goldbergs.
Oh, Wendy.
No. Oh, yeah. McCloven.
That's close. It's somewhere in that ballpark.
yeah. Something of that nature. But like, they had small roles, but they ate that camera up. You know what I mean, with their small roles. So I think they were trying to expand on that because it worked so well for Bridesmaids, and I think that they were trying to recreate those characters and use those same type of comedy. That same type of comedy. It just wasn't written well because they were trying to infuse the mental jargon behind it to make it seem as though, you know, they are smart just as well, and they are these parodies. But yeah, when it comes to the trailer that came out, Frozen
Empire.
Frozen
Empire.
Frozen
it
Empire.
Actually makes me interested because it looks really cool. I'm curious about, well, of course they brought a lot of the original characters back to join, and which means that they believed enough in the first movie to want to come back for the second. You know what I mean? Either that or that check was hit. You know what I mean?
I respect either choice.
Either way.
But you know what I mean? But Paul Rudd is a big sell, I think, a lot of the time. And once he signs onto a particular project, I think it's sometimes going to be worthy. And so I think I initially wanted to watch that. I think I was already in this mindset of like, oh, we got another Stranger Things. Like, I would think I was already like, I don't know if I'm, and that's thanks to Finn Wolfhard being cast yet again, but it was like, I don't know if I am gonna like this as much as I like Stranger Things, so why give it a chance? And so, but now And plus I had not heard anything about it. It wasn't you didn't see those people like after, I guess the main girl who wears the glasses, she doesn't necessarily look like that. They put her in a wig, they, you know, dolled her up and made her look very different. But yeah, it makes me incredibly intrigued, honestly. It makes me want to see if it's actually gonna be any good. And I think I want to watch the first film, this reboot film, to see, to prepare for it, I guess you could say, and to see if it's something that I would want to watch in the future.
Get back into, especially being scarred. I feel you.
Yeah. But real quick before Drayo says whatever he wants to say, Wendy McLendon Covey. I think I pronounced it.
Wendy McLendon, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Wendy McLendon.
Not McClovey?
No,
not McClovey.
Not McClovey.
McLendon. McLendon dash Covey or Covey. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to give, we try to give people their proper shine on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wanted
that lady from the Goldbergs.
Want to be respectful for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, she's a phenomenal improv actress. Like the way that I'm sure they are falling over at the takes that she puts forth when she's ad-libbing and things of that nature. One thing from Reno 911 that she did was she pulled the cowboy over and was giving him like a drunk test, like a drinking test, or trying to see if he was drunk, and giving him all of these like choreography type of steps. And it's one of the funniest sequences. If you haven't seen it, try and see it. But she's a phenomenal comedic actress, and I'm excited. I mean, I just adore her,
Oh, shout out to her. Shout out to her. But no, I was gonna say I never saw Afterlife either. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
That's what it's called. Yeah,
2021.
Afterlife,
yes. And my main thing was at that point, as Drado alluded to, I've already been hurt. I didn't even see Ghostbusters 2016, but I still was like,
he was hurt from the trailer.
Yeah, my feelings were hurt. But also, I mean, real talk. I remember when Ghostbusters 2016 came out, and there was memes going around again from the incels, from the sexist men. They're like, the movie cast should be, and it was like a picture of like a bunch of like Will Ferrell and like a bunch of like popular comedic male actors, and it was like the movie should be this cast: Jim Carrey and Will Ferrell and like Paul Rudd and whoever else. And I'm just like, that's not the point, guys. Like that has nothing to do with it. My issue is that Sony is making a cash grab and not putting time into like the story and the script. I don't care what genders the Ghostbusters are. I just want it to be well crafted. And I want it to be clear, if it's a passing of the torch, then like include the original, whatever. Or if it's going to be a new thing, then do some new shit with it. But my thing was just like, after Harold Ramis died, okay? That was actually emotionally difficult for me. I love his work so much. And I, both in and out of Ghostbusters, I loved his work so much. And like, he wasn't just 1/4 of the Ghostbusters. He was at least 1/2 of the writing team for those movies. And I'm like, the cadence might be all off now, guys. I just feel like, I know Dan Aykroyd has wanted to make a Ghostbusters 3 for years. They made a video game, which kind of was a Ghostbusters 3 back in the day. But like, for some reason, they never were able to get everybody to sign on and do the thing. So I feel like that ship had kind of sailed. And then once Harold Ramis had died, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of it, though. Like, Ghostbusters, and I'm wearing the RoboCop shirt, Ghostbusters, much like RoboCop, is one of those things that I think is really kind of lightning in a bottle. And the way that movie turned out has everything to do with the time it came out, the very particular people who came together to make it, the spirit behind making it. I feel like there's so many, the fact that it was such a weird original idea that we didn't have really, even though there was like another Ghostbusters thing that you can read about it online. There's a whole, they tried to sue. It's a whole thing. But nonetheless, it was something we hadn't really seen or felt before. And I felt like it was just sort of like, wow, that really hit. And I think trying to bring it back after such a long time, it's a hard thing to sort of tap back into. I love the concept. Ghostbusters is a fun concept. So is RoboCop. So is Men in Black. I think they're all incredible concepts that you can make tons of stories about. But I think to get the actual energy and chemistry behind it right, that's hard. So like once Harold Ramis died, I was like, I don't think I want to see this 2016 movie. And I was like, yeah, Afterlife looks like it takes the material a little bit more seriously, and it's being done by Jason Reitman, who is, the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the original. Yeah. So like, I'm like, he probably cares enough to do this thing right, but I'm still skeptical. I'm still like, I don't want to watch this movie and be like, And that's why I skipped Afterlife. I've heard good things from Ghostbusters fans, so I might check it out. And Frozen Empire does look very exciting and very new and fresh for Ghostbusters. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that whole thing. I had more to say about 2016 than anything else.
No, we said enough about 2016. Frozen.
And another thing.
And another. No, Frozen Empire looks great. The trailer looks great. Again, I haven't seen Afterlife, and I think, and you hit on this earlier, Skip. I think I skipped Afterlife because it also reminded me of Stranger Things, and I think I've seen too much of what's his name, Finn Wolfhard's character playing that same role from It to Stranger Things. Like I've seen so much of him. I think I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm good, bro. I've seen it. I've seen this guy everywhere. I need a break from him.
But kudos to him.
Why. No, shout out to him. He's playing those. He's getting that check. But I think that's why I skipped Afterlife. But like I heard good things about it. But I just didn't. I felt like that was like a thing going on with like the It movies and that, and just like that whole Stranger Things vibe. Like I was already Stranger Things out because it was like so much hype and like popularity around that show, where I had to force myself to see what the hype was all about. And I was like, okay, all right, it's a good show. I like it. But I don't want everything to be this. I don't need every movie or every TV show to be these kids. They come into the franchise and they have to
deal with
save the world, and deal with ghosts.
Yeah. I mean, we got that with the Block. We got that with you know what I mean. Like it becomes a trope, but like let it be spaced out enough of a trope.
Yeah. Like I get it. Kids are the future. They but I don't want everything to be that. That was my thing on why I skipped Afterlife. But I do want to check it out just so I can be prepared for Frozen Empire as well. Like you mentioned, Phil, they got cast members from previous films back. They have the son of the director, Ivan. Jason is now doing these films. So clearly something is working. Clearly, they're. But again, and we already touched base on this already, it's Sony. So it's like with Sony, it's like a love-hate relationship because they can put out good stuff, but then they put out half-ass trash. And it's like, bro, it's tough because this next film I'm about to get into, Madam Web. Now,
cash grab, or
I'm gonna be real with y'all. I don't know what they're doing with Marvel. I don't know what Sony is doing with Marvel. I don't think I ever will know. Even though they've dropped films, I still don't know what the plan is.
Sony knows.
And even though Madam Web isn't necessarily, I mean, she's not a villain, and this is like the first movie they are doing that's like a character that isn't, a villain. I mean, they weren't. I don't know, because Venom wasn't a villain and Morbius wasn't a villain. I don't know. But
you like Spider-Man?
No, it don't matter because there's no Spider-Man in this universe.
Right. Wait
there's
a second.
No Spider-Man. at all.
We got
all these Spider-Womans though. We about to have Madam Web, 3 other Spider-Womans. It's like, bro, where's Peter? Where is he?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of what Sony is doing with Marvel. I haven't been a fan since Venom. I just wish they would work with the MCU, work with Kevin Feige, and just give them like
the reins.
just give them the everything. Just give them all the Spider-Man stuff. Just give them all to Kevin Feige so he can do it properly. That's all I want, bro.
But if there's money to be had, like, we not letting that go.
My thing is, to what Drano is saying and what you're saying, Skip, you don't have to sell it back. Keep the rights. Just let Marvel Studios run the plays. Like, let them call the plays and run the shit. Like, I would love for Marvel Studios to just buy back Spider-Man so Spider-Man would be safe. But we know Sony's too stubborn for that. So I'm like, look, all right, you want your cash cow. You saw how much money No Way Home made. You saw how much each Tom Holland film made. A lot.
Yeah.
Why would you not just be like, hey, you guys write these things and help us fund it, and we'll take our very generous cut, and you guys can have all the, the responsibility, And I'm like, that's such a win-win. Man. They make, I have to believe they would make more money just taking their cut from the MCU versions than they would doing their solo stuff and kind of like, But I mean, I guess mathematically, though, they probably make more money doing stuff like Venom because they get the whole pie, but it's short-sighted money. It's like, if you got MCU Marvel money, you'd be making money for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah. With your own stuff, you make more money up front, but it's a cash grab and it's going to run out real quick. So I wish they would just play ball.
Me too.
I feel like they want all the money. Like, they want. I feel like when it comes to the contract that they put forth with MCU, they was like, you can get 10%. You can write it for us, and we're gonna take it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's as bad as like how some record labels used to do those music artists back in the day with having them like sign their life away. Like, Spider-Man has signed his life away with Sony and they ain't letting him go. No. And so, like, every facet of Spider-Man, they're trying to make money from. They may not make another Spider-Man film, but they gonna do Spider-Man's next door neighbor, and they gonna do Spider-Man, and we gonna try and expand this as much as we can. We gonna squeeze that last. You know what I mean? Like,
y'all didn't know about Jake. He lived 2 doors down from Pete, and he has a whole backstory.
He got a whole backstory.
That's
and
crazy,
it's cool. And we're gonna have Billie Eilish sing on the soundtrack, so come and see it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next film is Betty Brand. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they start doing Gwen Stacy and like all of these different.
Just bring her in.
They're just trying to make movies in association with Marvel, and you know what I mean? It's
and
like,
that gives them money hand over fist because, again, it's made through Sony Pictures. It's released by them, so they get the whole pie, and also they get the Marvel brand on it. So people who don't know, like we know, are like, oh, it's a Marvel movie.
Well,
I'll go see it.
It's a Marvel movie.
Oh, it's Spider-Man related? Oh, okay, I'll see that. And like, there are people who aren't, hardcore geeks or whatever, who aren't gonna care, and they're just gonna turn up and be like, oh, this is a superhero thing. It's Marvel related. It's Marvel, so like, I'll watch it, and then possibly walk out the theater disappointed. But like, I just feel like it's so short-sighted. But like, these are the same people that were talking about making an Aunt May movie, and they had to literally get that got leaked, and then they eventually scrapped it. But they were willing to go there, And so I'm not surprised by anything anymore, but Madam Web, I will admit, when they dropped the information that this movie was still in production, I was like, oh, for real? It got real for me when I was doing this movie shoot. I told Drado about this. I was doing this movie shoot in Ohio a couple of years ago. And I was working with Isabella Merced. I don't know if I can say the movie because Warner Brothers may never release it. But I did this movie, and I was there the day she got the news that she got cast in Madam Web. Like, one of her friends ran up and was like, "Oh, I heard the news. You're gonna be in a Marvel thing." She was like, "Yeah, Madam Web," and she was so excited. I was like, "That's awesome!" But in my brain, I'm like, "But that's Sony Marvel," and I don't. I hope you turn out all right. Like, she's such a good actor. She's so delightful to work with, and she's
killing it in that trailer.
Yeah, she's killing
it.
She's great
as much as she can.
As much as she can with that writing. With that writing.
That writing.
No. It's not the casting, y'all. The casting. I love all those actresses. Like, I have no beef with any of the casting choices. Again, like y'all said, the writing. Sony has shown with the past Venom, Morbius movies that they don't know what they're doing with these characters, and they don't care. They don't care because if they did care, they wouldn't have stole Vulture from the MCU and put them in their little stupid Sinister Six that they trying to create for no damn reason. But it's fine.
Stop trying to make Sinister Six happen. Fine. It's not happening.
It's fine.
It's not happening.
It's fine.
MCU can make it happen. Y'all ain't making it happen.
If they want to reform all these villains and make them the Super Six, I don't know what they try to do, but it's hey, go crazy because it ain't nothing we can do about it. They're gonna keep pumping these movies out. They got a Venom 3 already in the works. It's it don't matter at this point.
Scorpion coming out in 2026. Rhino about to have his standalone.
Craven will be here next year. Craven.
Which Rhino is in the Craven movie. Rhino is in the Craven trailer.
I love
Aaron Johnson.
Aaron Johnson is a dope actor. Yeah, he's really dope. But
I'm mad at y'all. Saying yes. But I'm not mad at y'all getting that bag.
Get that paper.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's a shame.
Sony, it is a shame.
They keep throwing away these great characters that the MCU could absolutely make great use of. Craven was on the table for Spider-Man 3 before it became No Way Home. That was the original pitch. So, like, that's
dope.
They could absolutely, and especially, again, we're not gonna get into this rabbit hole, but after seeing what they did with the character in Spider-Man 2, the game, like, I would be so ready to see Craven on the big screen, tearing up, making chaos, all that. So, my thing, quick thoughts about the actual Madam Web trailer is, one, I think the schlocky Final Destination thing they're trying to do with it could work with better writers and a better studio, maybe people better storytelling behind it, but like right now I just get that I get those what was it? It's not Mutant X, it's New Mutants. I get New Mutants vibe from this trailer where they're like, oh, it's horror, but it's like superhero genre horror and like suspense thrillery, and like I'm like, I feel like this is not going to turn out the way you want it to.
I don't like that they trying to do this bad guy Spider-Man thing. I don't like it.
I don't like it at all.
Weird. I don't like it. I feel like it could have worked, but like it just feels very thrown together. The costumes in the movie look very CW quality, not a knock on the CW, because CW.
Nah, you said it. It's been said.
They're a TV network that is really good quality for TV. But when you're doing major motion picture, like
it's true.
That's a whole other
it's
thing.
It felt real web series, honestly.
That's even better.
Fair. It felt web series.
Yeah. And like Ezekiel and Madam Web are two characters that like have a similar thing going on, and like thematically it makes sense to use them both, but I really don't think that I I just don't love those characters to begin with. Like, what they bring into Spider-Man, Madam Web is typically an old woman who sits in a chair with her blue blockers on and just says, Spider-Man, you have a great destiny and you're destined to do this heroic whatever. And I'm just like,
you messed up this timeline. You know what I mean? Like,
and then Ezekiel is that dude that like shows up in J. Michael Straczynski's The Other storyline from the early 2000s. And basically he has all of Pete's powers and he's just like, hey, we're a part of this chain of like ancient totems that select people to have animal-based powers, and we got the spider thing going on, and technically you weren't just bitten by that spider randomly, you were chosen. And I'm like, I hate all of this. Like, keep fate and destiny out of Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man is built off of the idea that something just happens, life happens to you sometimes, and then you get to make a choice about who you become. That's the theme that runs through all of his villains, or at least most of his villains, and that's the theme that runs with Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Like, you know, shit's gonna happen in life, and it's not gonna be fair. But who are you going to be? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with it? And I like that. And the moment you say he was just magically destined to be a hero, I'm like, well, that kind of takes some of the oomph out of that, you know? So,
it does.
So I don't know.
It's true. And you said with the Ezekiel character about how he got his powers from, you know, I guess the trailer shows him in the jungle and he got bit by a spider and somehow whatever, I don't know, but I'm assuming whatever they got planned with that portion of it is gonna somehow bring in Kraven, and it's gonna be the same thing where it's like he got bit and got his powers, because that trailer, I don't know if y'all watched that trailer. He got bit, he got bit, and somehow later on in the trailer he got all these powers. So
damn, you're right. Damn, I didn't even make that connection. You're absolutely right. This is
everybody getting bit, huh?
Everybody getting bit and they getting powers. That's
how you get powers.
Everybody getting their powers by getting bit by a specific animal or insect. That's how it's
I can't.
By the way, last afterthought about it is with Ezekiel, with Fusing, I don't even think he's necessarily a villain in the comics, so it's weird to make him a serial killer. But B, just keep him in his civilian clothes. The suit, the dress suit is fine. Like the Spider-Man suit, I think it's only in there because that's not something he really wears in the comics. I think that's only in there because they want to remind you, hey, this is related to Spider-Man.
This is bad Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because they don't have a Spider-Man in that. Right in that world yet, and
don't you want to see bad Spider-Man? that's what that trailer feels like. Like, I know you like good Spider-Man, but have you seen bad before? It feels very it's so we ain't stupid, Sony.
Again, in the hands of better writers, I absolutely would see a weird, creepy horror movie Spider-Man character, I guess, but that's not what we have here. So
that's not what we have.
As of right now, with the two villains that they've given us with Venom and Morbius, each one of those characters were just fighting versions of themselves in their films. So Venom was fighting another symbiote.
True.
Morbius was fighting a guy who had his similar powers. And it was I don't know what they have planned, but right now with these films that they have, it's not it. It's not hitting. It's not. And
tell them to go read a book.
Even the people that aren't fans of Marvel are saying these things. Like, it's not even if they didn't read comics, you can still watch these films and be like, oh no, that film was just bad. Like, it's also the way they're making these films. Like, they're doing them really fast and it looks cheap, and I don't know. It's trash. But again, that's Sony. That's what they're giving us. And this is the last thing I want to touch on, because I feel like we should dive into our main topic. But Garfield. They're also doing Garfield as well. The Garfield movie, which is a character that's been here since the newspaper days. He's been here forever.
He's an OG.
They felt that it was time to give the fans what they've always been wanting, a Garfield movie. because there's a huge fan base for Garfield right now. So.
There is. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm Garfield's #1 fan. We have lasagna downstairs. I'm excited.
I have two minds about it because it's an odd choice in the sense in the way you guys are making fun of it. It is an odd choice because it's like if you pick this character, you clearly picked him for brand recognition. Garfield is a recognized brand, but like it's a brand that like isn't on the tongues of kids or adults at this point. Like it's like I don't know. It's like when they made that. No, that's not even the same thing. When they made that Underdog movie, live action Underdog movie years ago, I remember being like, "That's an interesting choice." But at least Underdog was on Cartoon Network at the time, and they were like, showing his reruns and stuff. But like, this is interesting because on one hand, I don't ever want to be that guy that's like, why are they making this? Is there no? Because I can't at the same time say you shouldn't just cash in and you shouldn't just make things that people want to see, but then also complain when they pick something a little bit more obscure, a little bit more off the like. I want to see both things happen. I want to see movies that are mainstream and highly anticipated, and I want to see them take some chances, and maybe Garfield is that chance. But also it feels like it's not a chance because it's like you picked a property that is recognizable. So like, what are you trying to do with this movie is a very good question, a very fair question, I think. Who is it for? Like, what's the target audience? But who knows? It might catch fire. It might bring the kids into Garfield. Like, some things come back around. DuckTales came back around. It was a huge hit. Shout out to them. So
I'm excited. I genuinely am excited for Garfield. I was a fan when I was younger of the Garfield and Friends series, and I loved it. I felt like they tried to make it multiple times after, and it still never created that same type of magic. I think what they're trying to do now is recreate that type of magic the right way. The live action films from beforehand, I wasn't a fan of. I couldn't get behind Bill Murray.
Interesting.
And I couldn't get behind, I want to say his name is Spencer Breslin. I can't remember specifically. He was big in like the Euro Trip or Road Trip.
Do you mean Breckin Meyer, who played John?
Breckin Meyer. Meyer, who played John. I wasn't a fan just because of the same effect that I had in terms of Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. Like I couldn't delve deep into believing that was John, other than the fact that he was just a white man playing John. You know what I mean? So it was like, but I feel like not too long ago they came out with a Peanuts reboot. It was a film that was very well animated, and it invoked all of Schultz's energy, like that, what he created it with, you know what I mean? Like what he intended for it to be, and recreated that magic. Now, I don't know how well that did, because it was targeted towards younger kids, and it was targeted towards, the generation who grew up with Peanuts for sure. But is it about bridging that gap?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, is it about taking the generation who grew up with it and having them expose the now generation to it? I'm excited to see them do it the right way.
Yes.
Them trying to put him on the big screen and get the jokes right, get the personality right, get like that eating, because then they went off and they started doing like the Tale of Two Kitties, and it was like it became this Paris story or Rome story or whatever it was, and it was like, this is cash cowing. This is you trying to expand this character and try and make money with all of these straight to video type of opportunities. And so this feels as though that it's coming from is trying to resurrect what made it great initially, and try expand on that. They always try to do the whole thing of he never knew his parents, let's throw his parents in there. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that trope, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. I don't know how I feel about swallowing another voiceover by Chris Pratt. Just because it goes into this whole Finn Wolfhard situation where it's like he's in everything. Does he have to be the voice of everything? I had to accept it just because I was like, he is actually doing a good job in the trailer with the voice, and he sounds good and bright and Garfield-esque, I guess you could say. So I've been a fan of Garfield, and I'm excited to see this new film, and if they do it justice and if they do it right.
Skip answered our earlier question, my earlier question of like, who's this for? And I think it is trying to bridge that gap, like you said. So getting the kids of today to bring their millennial parents and be like, hey, you remember Garfield? Like, I'm interested. What's this about? And like, get people to, family films to historically do pretty well for that reason. So anything your kids will want to see, if you can get kids excited to see it, then it's like, well, then the family's going. And I think that's I like Garfield. I want Garfield to continue to be around. So I'm not against the movie. What I will say about the trailer is that it made me feel connected to it really highlighted that the nature of John and Garfield's relationship by showing a little bit of its origins. Like, Garfield didn't have anywhere to go. He's a stray cat, and he's hungry. he's just out on his own. And then you got John, who's eating dinner by himself because that's John's character. He's just so lonely and doesn't know how to connect with people. And then they find each other, and it's great. But it's also chaos. And I thought the energy of the trailer was pitch perfect. As far as the voice, I'm still a wait and see. At this point, I think it's just my ear's just gonna have to adjust, because while Chris Pratt is a fine voice actor, and I'll say that, and I know I'm gonna take heat for that. He's fine. He's a fine voice actor. Because he's a good actor, and that's the most important thing about voice acting, is to be a good actor first. Doing crazy, wild range of voices is second to being able to actually act. So I think he's a fine voice actor. I enjoy him in the Lego movies. Well, I've only seen the first one, and I enjoy his work in general. I will say that this character just makes Garfield sound like Chris Pratt, and I'm just like,
unfortunately, I got that same feel.
That can work. He is delivering the dialogue as Garfield. He is acting, but like it just sounds. I've been conditioned. So much like you, Skip, I watched Garfield and Friends in the 90s when I was a kid, and I loved it. And Lorenzo Music did such an iconic job as being the voice,
good,
the deadpan voice of Garfield.
Good.
And ironically, I was telling Drado this last time we ran this back. The reason they picked Bill Murray for the live action movie is because he was requested, because most people link the two. So Lorenzo Music, who originally I think his big break was doing Laverne and Shirley. He was like the guy, the voice over the intercom. He took on Garfield, but he also did in the 90s a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters, in which he played Peter Venkman. And so since he voiced Peter Venkman, I think people felt like after Lorenzo Music died, they felt like the only voice for Garfield is clearly Bill Murray. And they do have a similar quality and they do have a similar energy. And so I think for me, the live action Garfield movie, I didn't see the sequel, The Tale of Two Kitties, but the live action Garfield movie, the main thing that charmed me about it was Bill Murray as Garfield, because I felt like that was the right voice and the right energy and the right pick. But to your point, Skip, all the other stuff about the movie felt like, I mean, this is fine for a live action film, but like it didn't hit that same chord as like the cartoons I grew or even the comics I grew up, reading or watching or listening to or whatever. So I think that this movie has like the opposite problem. I think this movie feels like Garfield, maybe except for the voice. And then like the live action movies, like it had the voice and the characterization of Garfield, but everything else around Garfield felt like not quite right. But I still liked it. I'm not gonna lie. I liked it when it came out. But it was in that same line of Inspector Gadget and Scooby-Doo, where it was just like they were doing that classic cartoon to live action thing. And I actually really like Scooby-Doo. That one's solid. I'll stand by that one.
Yeah. I agree with it looks like it could be a fun movie. I do love when they bring back these iconic characters for the new gen kids to witness and see, and us as the older folks get to introduce them, or I guess me, because I'm the father of the group, gets to introduce my son to this character. Because it's kind of tough to put kids onto the stuff that we grew up on and not be outdated, and everything just it looks better now with all the technology we have. So it's like going back to that. Even I have that issue sometimes, like going back to watch something older. I'm like,
Agreed.
So, I don't know, like I do that with anime all the time. I'll be like, it's a tough one to get back into. Like One Piece, when I was looking at the first episodes of like One Piece, I was like,
that background, I don't know if I can do that. That background ain't hitting. Are those shapes?
But I do love the fact that they're bringing Garfield back, because they not Sony, but Disney Plus, they brought back Chip and Dale, and I thought that film
was really good.
Really good.
It was really good.
Really great film. And that was like really made for us and the newer generation. Like they combined they gave it all in that film, and it was really, really dope. Another character, Sonic, they've done a great job with the Sonic film as well.
Agreed.
So they've been knocking it out the park with these adaptations of these older iconic characters. So I'm hoping Garfield is good. Again, the voice actor Chris Pratt, I also have to just adjust. I haven't seen the Mario film, only the trailers. And even in the trailers, I was like, the movie itself is good. The movie itself.
Yeah,
I see it's on Netflix. I still haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, it's good for what it is. I think they're definitely marketing it towards kids, and they are those nuggets for the older generation to be able to still enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like it still feels at times like a children's plot, where it's like all over the board sometimes. But it's still a straightaway plot. You know what I mean? Like it's still good and interesting. I think I initially, when I went to go see it, saw it in theaters and I fell asleep, and then I tried to watch it here and I fell asleep. And so
you're not selling me, Skip.
I know. It's not like it's just it's visually stunning. I wish the story was a little better, I guess you could say. I wish it came from a different aspect, or it wasn't as hokey, you know what I mean? But it's supposed to appeal to children, so I think that they have to make it a little bit that way. But the voice acting is I think it's well done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Looks fun.
I'm gonna definitely check it out. Again, I have no beef against Chris Pratt. He's a super talented guy.
Yeah.
I've watched pretty much everything he's in.
Yeah.
So him as Garfield, I'll just have to adjust. But I think even during all this, I guess the question is like, is it? I guess the question is, do we need to continue to like keep bringing back these older iconic characters, or is it worth it to just try and create new characters? Because it's like, I love Garfield when I was a kid, but I don't. I mean, if they brought him, like, if I don't care about him now,
you didn't ask for this.
I didn't ask for this film, and it's like the whole question is with these remakes and reboots and stuff like that. It's like, I get it. Some people are fans of this stuff and they genuinely do want to bring them back and reprise their characters. But then you got other people who are in it for just the money and trying to recreate something kind of like the whole Ghostbusters 2016 thing and it not panning out. And, you know, it can honestly hurt some people in the long run. And I don't know. I don't know this stuff.
to talk to that, like, I feel like Garfield isn't a cash cow because he's so not well known. You know what I mean? At this time, it doesn't necessarily feel like that just because the generation of today, I wouldn't expect them to know Garfield.
Right.
And initially they had they tried to do like a Garfield animated show, and it ran on Netflix and Nickelodeon, I think, or Nicktoons or something like that for a little bit. It was like a CGI type of deal. And I feel like even those kids who watched it are grown now. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like them bringing Garfield around is definitely because they are trying to improve on what was not executed properly in the past.
Okay.
And not necessarily talking about like Garfield and Friends. And there are people who love the live action films.
Live action.
You know what I mean? But I think that they're trying to take what was great in the past and make it great again. And I'm all for that. Like, they did the same thing when it came to Scoob, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
Scoob was not so bad. It could have been better, but I understand that they were trying to take that property and make it relevant again for the newer generation, just because a lot of the generation may not be watching What's New Scooby-Doo, or, you know, like those older animated films. And so I think that I could understand them trying to resurrect it. It does well. And then creating an animated show from that, you know, trying to revive it, but they're trying to, sometimes they may take a film and use that as a soft push to see if we can turn this into a cash cow. Right. And so because it's worked so well in the past, like Garfield was on everything back in the day. He was on your office calendar. He was on your New Year calendar. You know,
he's like
the
symbol for Mondays, bro. He's like iconic.
I could see a Purina endorsement. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Garfield, a lot of different things.
At one point.
Yeah. Like, even at the end of that trailer, they say, if you have a video of your cat being very Garfield like send it in. I think that they're trying to cash in on the fact of we are all pet lovers. And they say, if you got dog videos too, you know what I mean? Like, we're all pet lovers. And I think they're trying to cash in on that in specifics. But sometimes it works. Sometimes it tanks. But I think they chose Chris Pratt because Chris Pratt is known to sell.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
most poppin'.
He gets them out. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of kids don't know that that's Chris Pratt. You know what I mean?
No,
so I think they're trying to choose like an appealing voice in order to be able to bring in kids and, you know, and get that money. Then after, you know what I mean? But I think that I definitely think it's about the money for sure. You know what I mean? Like, I think it, not wholly, but why bring it back? I think they're trying to bridge the gap. I think they want to be able to make money from it because, again, he was so popular in the past. So let's try and figure out how to modernize him and make him popular now and make him appealing. Give this dad story, this adopted dad, as opposed to my biological dad. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many aspects that they could take it that I'm interested in seeing and wondering if they can pull it off.
I mean, you touched on a couple things there. One, I just realized we're gonna have to, it's some episode, not this one, we're gonna have to talk about voice acting, because, you know, obviously Drado's on that path now. I do a little bit myself. I don't know about you, Skip, but like voice acting is just like animation and voice acting and all of that stuff is just so important to all of us. So I would love to do an episode tackling, like, you know, the things going on in the voice acting industry, as far as just like, is it okay to be picking Chris Pratt when you could have picked maybe a more suitable voice actor for that particular part, but they don't have the name behind them? You know what I mean? Like, the stunt casting is stunt casting necessary? And also, you know, just like the whole debate about, like, you know, race and can you play someone outside of your ethnicity? You know, all that stuff's going on in voice acting right now. I would love to do an episode about that. But the other thing you touched on, bring something back around and why they do it, and sometimes it's earnest, and I do think that's a fair assessment. Like that, you know, sometimes you just want to see something work, and that's cool. And if it worked before, why not bring it back again? I mean, because honestly, I could have said the same shit about Archie. Who the fuck was talking about Archie before that CW show? Riverdale brought him back into the mix. Now they're making the Archies, and like, it's, you know, more music based, and I think I actually think it looks good. I didn't watch Riverdale, but, you know, no shade to Riverdale. I think that also looked interesting. It just wasn't for me. I was just like, I don't need a dark, gritty Archie.
Y'all missed some greatness.
But, you know, like, Archie was one of those characters that's like, he's been around forever, but he's not like anyone's favorite, like, property anymore. Not, I say anyone in a broad sense. So and
even then, Jughead got a lot of, like, the popularity during, like, the Archie days. Because I've seen, like, I know there were Archie comics, but the comics that I was seeing was Jughead. That was what I was seeing a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. He was funnier to follow. Archie was a little more milquetoast and, you know, just kind of whatever. So
Jughead sold burgers. You know what I mean? Like, you slap Jughead on the side of your
that's gonna be
a McDonald's box. That was it was an endorsement. You know what I mean? Like, it was a combining of properties so they could be able to sell. And they were using the fandom behind Archie comics to be able to sell whatever burgers.
And he had a more interesting look. He had the crown. You know, he was. You know, it was different.
Yeah,
it was different.
In terms of the Runback, so we have a lot of remakes. We have a lot of reboots. We have a lot of requels. We have a lot of adaptations, and we want to check into, like, what are the differences of that. So, like, a remake is a new movie which retells a story in somewhat faithful manner. A reboot is a new movie which approaches the character or story in a notably different way. So, like, a lot of the time, one thing is it's the same characters, but something has completely changed. And a remaster is, of course, the original movie, like, restored and re-released. You have all these sequels, which is in the same world, but it's after.
right,
in the story, and then the prequel is before the story, of course. And then we also have, I feel like I'm missing some other ones. There's all these re-re-re's. A requel, I feel like I had to really hunker down. A requel is like a movie that revisits the subject of an earlier film, but is not a remake or a linear continuation of its plot. Yeah. And so we've been seeing a lot of these lately, and I think personally, I think it's because they want to expand the franchise. And now that we're in this Marvel Cinematic Universe era where it has worked so well for them in the past, I think now we're seeing it time and time again. Like everybody is jumping on this bandwagon of multiverse this, and let's see how we can take these characters and expand on them. So do you believe that it is hurting Hollywood, or if it is helping in terms of longevity? Is it giving people, for me, I at times look at it and see more opportunities, right? So like we are providing jobs for the original actors and are able to add all of these new actors in and expand the story, either to its detriment or to its advantage, you know what I mean? But what do you think about all of these re-re's? Like, what do you think?
A lot of ways to bring something back around, for sure. Drado, I'm gonna let you go first because I feel like I've talked more recently. So.
No, like you said, Skip, it gives opportunities for people to be a part of something that, let's say, was iconic back in the day, and they decided to bring it back. Like I would have loved if I had an opportunity to have been a part of the Beverly Hills Cop movie, if I had a chance to, you know, get involved when they were filming in Detroit. Like I love when they come to Detroit and film stuff. I always try to like get involved with that if I'm able to. I was able to randomly do like a extra in a film they did here in Detroit. So it was it's always dope to see that opportunity and have that. Now I will say, I don't want to say it hurts Hollywood, but it definitely could use some more better writers. Like if you're gonna do these reboots and these remakes, I would prefer them to have writers that are, you know, caring about the subject matter, or like the previous films that came before it. Like I know there have been some reboots that have been good, and I know there have been some that have been bad, and some that were just unnecessary, but they still stuck with like the, you know, and I bring this up all the time with Phil. He still hasn't seen it, but The Matrix, I bring this film up a lot, and the last Matrix film to me was not good.
It was not good.
It was not good. They brought back the same characters, which I loved. Like I love the fact that they brought back the same characters, but when you don't have
ruined them,
when you don't have that same feel, that same heart, or that same, like, what made the first Matrix films was the story was interesting. I knew nothing of what they were talking about, but the story still it still intrigued me. I wanted to know what they were talking about. So every movie I tuned in thinking I was going to get an explanation on what the Matrix really was and who the one was. And with this film, it seemed like, one, yes, they were just trying to make some money, and then two, it didn't seem like they really cared what this movie brought to the table. It just was something to do just to reprise Neo, and that was it. It didn't they don't even have, the way it ended, there's nothing else after this film. So I'm like, what was the purpose of this film in the first place then?
Yeah.
The way Revolutions ended was fine. Like, who cares if Neo was really dead or not? Like, they should have just left that open-ended discussion the way it was. But no, I don't know. I don't know what their goal was with this, and I think that's the issue I have with the bad reboots. It's like when you don't have if I go into it and I don't know what the purpose was for it, I'm like, you could have made something else or turned this into something new entirely, and then that can open up the door for something brand new. Like just change this, and this, and not include like that same character, but just make a new character and make it a new idea. I feel like a writer could have came in and had an idea for that Matrix film, and it could have been something entirely different and called something entirely different, and still would have been cool. Like I would have been fine with that. But because it's tied to the Matrix of 3 films that I enjoyed, now I'm like, okay, well, you ruined this franchise. Thanks. For me personally. Yeah. But some people like the movie. I didn't. But I mean, obviously that's subjective, but I don't think it hurts Hollywood, but I do think it could use more creativity, better writers, and I think they need to do better with casting. But I do, and I want to go back to what Phil said about casting these actors who are popular at the time versus unknown characters or unknown actors who don't have that popularity behind them, are unknown. But I still think if you have like casting such as like Superman Legacy, where they're not the most popular actors, they've been in other things, but they're not as popular as a Chris Pratt, you can still pull that off, especially when you're doing like the casting part of it. You're going through all these different auditions, you see what they can bring and the potential behind those actors. You don't have to go for the big name. Like you don't. But that's just my take on it.
100%.
Yeah.
The interesting conversation that stems from all of these, what we're talking about really is IPs, right? Hollywood wants what it's always wanted. Like, this is not new. Hollywood wants the sure bet. They want the sure thing. They want to know we're going to make all of our money back and then some. We're going to be filthy fucking rich after we drop this thing. What's the easiest way to do that? Let's pick something people already like. People with the market research has done itself. People have already supported this thing. Let's just bring it back around. And so that's how the money people are approaching it. Then you have, and they have the say in Hollywood. And then you have the creatives who have some say in Hollywood. And the creatives, sometimes it's a perfect marriage, and it's like, hey, the money people are willing to let the creatives take the lead, and the creatives actually care about what they're doing. They actually are invested. Other times you get, like, again, these money people who buy properties or license properties, and they're like, I don't know anything about this, but I know it sells. I know if you put if you put Batman's face on something, like it's gonna sell. And then, and then you get a creative who also just is detached, and it's just like, whatever, I'm doing this Batman movie because that's what they hired me for. And you get writers who are like, well, I want to eat this month, so I'll write a Batman, sure. And then, it's, and I'm not knocking any of those people, but it's just like, it could be a bad marriage sometimes. You need at least one person who is co-piloting to be like invested, to be a fan of some sort,
to be that's what I need.
That's what worked for. You can either, like, Marvel Studios has it really good because, well, A, they're a studio dedicated to making comic book movies, so they're gonna have to be good at it, because then they're out of business. B, they have Kevin Feige, who is the perfect marriage of a business person who understands what it takes to sell a movie, but also a huge geek who loves all this stuff and cares deeply about how these characters are represented. And he listens
to the fans too when they have something to say. He listens.
Absolutely. And so he understands storytelling, and he understands the business of selling stories. So, like, it's a good thing. Back in the X-Men movies from 20th Century Fox, you had Bryan Singer, directing, the initial X-Men movies, and, like, those worked because Bryan Singer was not a fan, but, like, did his research and sort of over time was like, I see the themes in this. This is actually pretty deep. As a gay man, I can work with, discrimination and people being afraid of what's different and like whatever. I see it, I got it. But then you also had Tom DeSanto producing, and he was like, I'm an X-Men fan. Like, we're gonna have Wolverine, we're gonna have Storm. Oh my God, this is so sick. And between the two of them, you got something that was both grounded and relatable for general audiences, but you also got something that still served the fan base to a certain degree. And I feel like that's, when you're bringing something back, to Drado's point, if you're going to evoke the IP's name to get that brand recognition, then you better go all the way in and make sure that the soul of it still represents what that brand was built on. Otherwise, absolutely, just do a new story, even if it is derivative, even if it is like inspired by a story we've already seen. Just make a new IP and call it a day. There's nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that studios are less likely to buy it now. But that's that's a whole thing. I just feel like, for me, what makes a good well, there are different things, but what makes a good and worthy entry into a franchise or new take on intellectual property is like, again, just like, what's the soul of the thing? Is it rooted at all in where the thing came from? Where the thing started, and then with that, what new ideas do you have to, as Skip said earlier, take it forward? Right?
Yeah.
Like, if we're gonna do Garfield again, then what can we say with Garfield now that maybe we couldn't say before? And to me, that's the secret sauce. Like, those things I talked about, having the right pairing of like fan and practicality of filmmaking, but then also having the right balance of we like what this thing is, we're proud of what this thing is, we want to celebrate what this thing is, but we're also going to take some chances, do some different things, because if you do the exact same story twice, that's boring as fuck. People are not gonna stick around for it.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And don't feel as though like you can create a franchise off of the base concept. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they take the generalities of a character and build and create what they want off of that, as opposed to staying true to the history of the character. And then maybe after you get past that point, then you can expand, but like make it make sense. You know what I mean? Like, because there are certain things that you feel as though that inherently this character would never do. Why are you pushing them into this space of what you think they would do, as opposed to they've already done it? You know what I mean? Like, they've already taken this route and this is how it went, so stick with that, as opposed to saying like, oh, it would be cool if. No, it wouldn't be. It would be cool if you did it. Like, I just want a live action version of what I read, not now this character is live action, and so we can do all of these like take all these like new avenues of what we can do with them, because this isn't the same character that's on the page. Yes, it is though, but you're using that same, that same property, that same, like, if you're going to stray from it, then make it anew, like how you said, Drado. You know what I mean? Like, make it new. Like, give this person a completely different name or an original. It's crazy, because
the perfect example of that is Dragon Ball Evolution. The way that they fucked Goku up
that was so wrong.
Ridiculous. Like, you have Goku here, who is nothing like this character that you put into this film. This is like a completely different character. That could have literally been something entirely different. It could have been a whole different movie, and I would have been fine with it. And because it ain't got nothing to do with Dragon Ball. Like,
but you sold
Yes.
But you sold off of the name alone,
that's what they want.
Which is a huge betrayal. Just because, like, if I go expecting to see Dragon Ball Z, then I'm going to see. I expect to see a recreation of what I have come to know and love as an anime, not what you feel is Dragon Ball Z. You know what I mean? Like, it's not supposed to be like, oh, I would do it this way. No, it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be, this is what it is, and this is how I vision it, as opposed to, just that was it left such a bad taste in my mouth, that Dragon Ball Evolution, because what are you evolving from? Like, what are you like? What? Why? They made it sound like it was going to be like this really, really cool thing, but they ruined it. I'm glad that they didn't ruin anybody's chance of being a fan of Dragon Ball Z from then on. You know what I mean? Because
the fans still stuck with Dragon Ball Z. Like they just ignored all that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just because it was Americanized and they did what they wanted. It was like they watched an episode and was like, okay, I know what I can do with these characters. I know how to make it like look really cool. Like, it's those moments. I agree in terms of taking the source material and staying true to what it was and what it always has been. Once you start straying from that is when it becomes really, really problematic. And that's what happens with the reboots, is that they take the concept and then they expand on how they see it. Or these requels, they want to take the concept and just the base of who this person is and think, oh, it can go this avenue because this is what happens to those people in this day and age.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's weird.
No, it is weird. And it's, you know, again, it can be very, when you get a license to something, it is your turn at bat. You technically, legally can do whatever the hell you want with any property you have.
Agreed.
But spiritually, that word betrayal fits, because it just, you're asking with one side of your mouth, you're asking people to embrace this because it's that thing you like. And out the other side of your mouth, you're saying, but it's my thing, and you have to accept it for what it is. And it's just like, you don't get to benefit from both. All right. Yeah. If you want to do a bold new direction, a bold new take on a classic character and franchise, and you want to say, I'm intentionally doing something kind of weird or fucked up with it, then stand by that. But don't also at the same time be like, yeah, well, but it's that thing you like, so you should show up to support it and you know, embrace it. It's just like, no.
I hate when they do that. I hate that.
It's just like,
and then don't cut corners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of them cut corners and they say like, we're gonna do this story, but we don't have time for all that middle stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
all the character development and growth.
Oh my gosh! Like everything about it. It's like there are certain moments that people have aligned themselves with, and you chose to skip directly over someone's favorite moment.
Yeah,
and you think that people are going to be okay with that. You don't even care about the moments. You simply care about the character as it is and how much the face of that character is going to sell. And that's what becomes incredibly frustrating.
And they also try to sell off of getting the most popular actor or actress, or in Lion King's case, the most popular singers. involved with the film, thinking that that's gonna help the movie sell. Beyonce is one of the greatest. Donald Glover is great, but
but
that could not save Lion King live action.
No,
it couldn't. Not even them.
Not even a 3-minute mid intermission Beyonce music video.
It was a music video.
It was a music video in the middle of the whole film.
Wow.
It was like,
I have not seen this film, so
it was frustrating because it was like, oh, this is not the time. This is not the time for this. Like, you could have saved this for the end credits. You know what I mean? Like, you could have gave me, but it just feels, it sometimes feels forced on you, or you feel like you're being pandered to. And I think that they believe that the audience does not know better, or is not expecting much more. I think that they expect for our palette to be, there are times where my mom, we will be sitting there and I go, Mom, I can't watch this because do you see that exposed mic in the back? Like, nobody cared. Like, nobody cared. And she, because her palette is not as fleshed in terms of cinema as mine is, she would have never noticed that. And I think that that's what these studios are thinking in terms of thinking that we don't know better, or we can't see, or we're just gonna sop it up with a biscuit. Like, we're just gonna like eat it right on up just because it's something that we've always been asking for. But if you don't, we're also asking for you to do it right. Like, we're not just asking for it, we're asking for it to be done the right way. Otherwise, what am I really spending my money on?
Like, I don't have any issue with them doing sequels or reboots or requels or whatever. Like, obviously it's a cash grab. Like, they gotta make money. Like, that's what Hollywood, that's what movies do, is to entertain, and you gotta make films so you can make more and keep going. That's fine, but make good content. That's it. Like, make good content, bro.
It goes back to quality, not quantity. And you can give me 20 Ghostbusters, but like, if only 2 of them are good, like, what are we really doing here?
Talk about it.
No, I mean, that's the point in case. I have a lot of examples. There is the Terminator franchise. Now, the way Drado feels about the Matrix, I haven't seen Matrix 4. Terminator has pretty much derailed itself for me. I love the original Terminator. I love Terminator 2 even more. I actually saw Terminator 2 first because of my age. And went back and saw the Terminator, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is really different. Those 2 movies are solid. And you know what? They have an arc. They work with each other. And honestly, in my headcanon, they beat Judgment Day. Terminator 2 is the end of the franchise, because you know why? Terminator 3 is kind of middling, but I was hype about it at the time because I was like, okay, we're gonna finally build it. We're gonna finally see the war, because in that movie, spoilers for everyone, Judgment Day happens, and they're like, okay, we're gonna finally go into the post-apocalyptic future that, you know, John Connor is supposed to be the hero of. Let's go. Yeah, I'm with it. And then Salvation happened, and it was like, okay, they're building up that war. And then they just went a wholly different direction. With Genesis or whatever the fuck came after that. I was just like, look, I didn't even see Genesis because I was like, they're not continuing really the story about the war and John Connor and all that. I was just like, I don't want just more Terminator just to have more Terminator. Either tell me a story that that's worth seeing, or I was good with just Terminator 1 and 2. Like, you didn't have to do anything after that. Like, that was great.
And they love trying to cameo Arnold. They were trying to bring Arnold as a cameo back any chance they got in those films.
And Arnold was like, I'm gonna do it because what else am I doing?
They was just taking his likeness and just was like putting it on random robots. Like, all right, y'all, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing?
And Star Wars, we were talking about the sequel trilogy. Skip described pretty much perfectly what happened to Luke Skywalker. They're like, even though we have films that have established what Luke Skywalker is, who he is as a person, what he's been through, and what his trajectory is. And even though we did an entire like previous film, The Force Awakens, that just sort of sets up these other new characters, Rian Johnson comes in. I'm not blaming Rian Johnson. I like Rian Johnson as a filmmaker a lot. I blame Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and everyone else who had a chance to plan this. But Rian Johnson came in being the auteur director that he is, writer director that he is, and he's like, I want to do something that excites me. Nothing that JJ set up in the previous movie is interesting to me, so I'm just gonna wipe the slate clean and just do my own thing. And I was just like,
yeah, come on.
I'm like, that's not.
Come on though.
The Last Jedi as a standalone film absolutely works. The Last Jedi as a continuation of any of the previous Star Wars films is trash because it just doesn't. It ignores everything that was set up in previous films. And I'm just like, look,
yeah.
I get that you had an interesting concept. Rian Johnson, I can tell, is that type of creative that needs to be doing his thing. Because like he has a very specific thing he wants to communicate. He wants to do something that's exciting for him, and they put him in this. They put him in this sequel, and they didn't give him any rules. I'm like, you didn't have these two directors sit down with each other. Like you didn't have them at a meeting and saying like, "Hey, we're gonna make 3 films that continue a story that's already up and running. How do we want to begin, middle, and end this shit?" Instead, they're just like, "Oh, we'll figure it out along the way," and then we got what we got. We got what we got.
Yeah, let the trailer say, forget everything you know about Star Wars. Basically. You know what I mean? Like, we're starting clean slate. No, they don't do that because they know it's going to be problematic. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and then on top of that, now you done tricked me. You know what I mean?
Lied to us, literally.
Now you done tricked me into thinking like I have to hold on to this history in my mindset while watching this film. And then everything that I'm holding on to doesn't matter. And so then it makes you frustrated with like, why?
No,
I loved those films in the past. Why are we not expanding on that? And it makes you feel as though like this person is like, I'm gonna take this the Tinder profile of this character and write a story from it.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
It does suck. And you know what? Here's the thing. I will be real with y'all. When it comes to an adaptation or continuing of a franchise or whatever, I'll start with an adaptation. If it's an adaptation, if it's like this exists in this source material and we're gonna take it and we're gonna put it in a new medium. This comic book is now gonna be a movie. This book is now gonna be a TV show, whatever it is. I look at it and go, okay, I'm gonna grade this on 2 scales. 1, is it any good? Is it watchable? Like, is it a good story? 2, does it keep to the soul of the source material? And I only ask for the soul. Like, I don't need a 1-to-1 recreation, right? Like, because that's not fair either. That gives the creatives no room to do anything. To expand. And also, it's also just impossible to do a direct translation. So I'm like, I will accept some changes and some new ideas and stuff, but like, you know, the most important thing is it good? And like, if it's good, I'll forgive a lot. Like, I love Keanu Reeves' Constantine. Now, I watched that movie before I got into Constantine as a character. So once I started to understand what Constantine is like, I'm like, his personality is intact, but like he's not blonde, he's not British, and like I don't know. They didn't go far enough with how infuriating he can be as a person. So I'm like, it's just a different thing. Constantine with Keanu Reeves is still a good movie, and I will rewatch it easily any day. And I'm glad I heard they're making a sequel, like as an Elseworld outside of the DCU.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I'm like, hey, let's go. But if a Constantine fan came up to me and was like, I don't like that movie because it's not really Constantine, I'd be like, that's fair.
That's fair.
Which takes me back to, could that character have been somebody else completely? Did it have to be Constantine? Like, it could have been just somebody else that Keanu Reeves could have been playing, and it would have been really dope. But like you
Agreed.
said, because it ties to the comic book character and it's part of DC, and it's like you got a fan that's a fan of this character, and now they see this, and it's like, the fuck is this? Like,
yeah. And when
Yeah.
you're in your room reading these stories, or whether it's a novel, whether it's you know, like, you are fully invested.
Yeah.
Just because with every page turn, you are becoming more enamored with this character. And when you have those iconic moments, you know, you're reading through them and you don't see them realized in film the way that they should be realized, it really makes you feel as though you came up short. You know what I mean? Like, it's like going to a restaurant and they hype up that menu, you know what I mean? Like glazed caramelized onions, you know what I mean? And it comes out and it doesn't live up to that source material. You be looking at your plate and you be like, I don't want to pay for this. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't what y'all told me I was supposed to be getting. And so it kind of it leaves a bad taste in your mouth for sure. So like, if you're gonna do a reboot or a remake or a rewrite, like, do it right. You know what I mean? Just like do it right, just because, and take the time to do it. Don't just do it because it can be a cash cow. It can be,
and that's fine
if you do it right. You know what I mean? Like, if you take the time to actually, what can sometimes be problematic is they don't know what's gonna be a hit. You know what I mean? Like, they don't,
until it happens. Yep.
They don't know. And I feel like as long as they execute it properly, then it will be. It's just, you can't start straying from characters that we've come to know and love. Otherwise, go the route that Drado said and make it original, and so we can start loving those characters in a different way.
And I hate to compare like studios and stuff, but DreamWorks with their Kung Fu Panda and How to Train a Dragon, I feel like have done it right, where they've had this completely new idea. They didn't take anything from anybody else, not Disney, not nobody. They took these concepts and they made it into a film. These films were so good, first Kung Fu Panda and the first How to Train a Dragon, that they had 2 to 3 sequels for each one. On top of that, TV shows and series and spinoffs, which you mentioned before, Skip, where you can take that and then, you know, profit from that and keep the franchise going, where you can hit all these different points you couldn't do in the movie because the movie is only so long. So now you can expand the plot, the characters, the development of characters, side characters you probably wouldn't get because you got the main characters in the films that, you know, are the main plot of the story. But now you have these side characters that you love from that film that you can then follow in these series or whatever the case they turn into. On top of that, Kung Fu Panda 4 just announced they're coming out with this new trailer that they dropped. So it's like, some people are doing it right. It's not like doing sequels is a bad thing, but when you have stuff like Indiana Jones, where it's like the same thing and it's nothing new that you're bringing to the table, and it's like,
how are you explaining this?
Like, what are you trying to do here? Like, it's really it's a balance. It's a balance. It's like, you have to find that balance, and you have to know when it's time to stop with certain movies and films and stuff that it doesn't hit the same. With the last Indiana Jones film, I feel like I saw, probably wasn't my favorite, but you know, sometimes people don't know when to stop when it comes to, you know, certain movies and sequels and stuff. But when you do it right, like those I mentioned, it can go so far. Like, you can keep it going as long as you can. But I don't know. It's
to attest to your opinion, I think, like, if you think in terms of Shrek, So Shrek was a completely
Shrek is
original
another one.
story,
Yeah.
but it was taking all of those elements that we've come to know over the
Fairy
years
tale
and
stuff, yeah.
expanding on them. It was taking, like, they did it so well. Like, we know the fairy tale world, and then on top of that, they took a lot of different concepts of what Cinderella was, or a lot of different concepts of what Snow White was, and made it a parody of that. They parodied those things, which made it really, really cool. But it was still a driving.
It wasn't their main focus either. It was like sub stuff that was, incorporated into it.
Exactly. In this world, in this era, like, this is who Cinderella is in this world. You know what I mean? Like, and they just played on all of those different original ideas and bringing them all together in terms of fairy tales and stuff like that. And I think that was their initial cash cow, to be able to really start a franchise off of. And then it opened the doors for them to be able to do all those original films like Kung Fu Panda, and even with Kung Fu Panda, they still had those elements of Kung Fu. You know what I mean? Like those Kung Fu movies that we've come to, like those little lines and things of that nature, or that character trope. Like, they took all of those elements to make this original story. That's how you go about doing that. Is you don't, I don't know, you don't take a, what do you call it? Like a character that we've come to know and love, and then completely change who they are, completely change their makeup in order to fit your mold or to sell tickets. Like, that's not what we're going about. We want an original idea, or we want a continuation of what we've come to know and love.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, to throw a wrench in all of this, is that it is about the essence of it. It is about, like, knowing the origins of that particular story or idea or character. However, sometimes intentionally turning on its head works, but you have to do so with respect to where it started. So my example would be Hook. The boy who never grew up grows up. That's you're not supposed to do that. Peter Pan should not grow up. Like, he's a kid forever. Right. That's how the story ends. Like, that's what's sad about it too. Like, because Wendy has to go on and grow up. He has to say goodbye to him, her, and all the lost boys go back to the real world with her. And it's just Pete and Tink at the end of that story in Neverland fighting Hook forever. And it's sad. There's a poignance to it, but Spielberg and crew said, like, but what happened if he did grow up? What would that look like? And but they did it in a way that everything in that movie does tie back to the original J.M. Barrie story in a way that I think is faithful. So, like, even though they intentionally went against the idea, the concept, they did it while also honoring because, like, at the end of the day, in that movie, Robin Williams' version of Peter Pan, he grows up, he forgets what he was about when he was a kid, and then but he rediscovers it, and, like, he he finds value in his kids, and like, they do so many great things that are just really great callbacks to the actual original book and or play productions, if you've seen those. So I feel like no, go ahead.
No, that to me, I feel like is what you call a reimagining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're taking that concept, and you are really, like how you said, turning it completely on its head to but still keeping those elements, still keeping that history alive that makes that character what it is.
Yeah.
But you are saying, but what if this one thing changes? And I think that that's what's really cool.
No, you're right, because they are upfront in the marketing about, like, that concept of, like, what if the boy who never grows up? Like, what happens? So, like, I think immediately from the marketing, this is sort of like this weird reimagined unofficial sequel to Peter Pan, and you're like, cool, I'm on board. They don't try to trick you into thinking it's going to be run-of-the-mill Peter Pan, and then you get grown-ass Robin Williams just flying around the whole movie. Like, I feel like that's what companies try to do. They're like, hey, this thing you love, it's back. It's just like you remembered it, except when you get in the theater, not really. That's definitely something that I think is on the shady side.
Did you guys watch recently? I watched the Christmas special, Merry Little Batman.
No, I didn't watch that.
Okay, so it is also almost a forget everything you know about it to a certain degree. But like Damian Wayne is like 7 years or maybe 11 years old, right? And Batman is caring for him, but Damian wants to he wants to be taken seriously. He wants to be taken out on the field. And Batman is very much like, I'm the dad who it's about his safety. So he's like very overprotective dad, which they have taken it as like this Christmas story, right? But there are all of these elements of Christmas stories, like a Christmas Story, Home Alone. Like they've invoked all of these Christmas precocious kids all into Damian and have put it in the realm of Gotham. And so it comes off as this universe's Batman and Damian. You kind of have to forget like all of those things, other than the fact that he is Batman's son. And so then it takes it from this other spin. And for me, it was actually enjoyable. Me and Casey were watching it and we're actually really thoroughly impressed with, because our expectations were incredibly low, but like the fact that it was actually enjoyable was really refreshing, and it was eye-opening to be able to like just try things for sometimes, you know, because we were gonna pass it instantly, you know, but it was one of those stories where they were taking the base of like what I was saying and completely like changing everything about it, but adding these other elements to make it a little bit more palatable. And it was actually good.
No, that's dope. Here's what I'll say, because listening to us talk for long enough, I think I've come up with my personal summation. So if you're dealing with an adaptation or a reboot, you can do whatever you want, but tread carefully, because if you try to mislead your audience in any way and betray their expectations, then that's on you when that fallout happens, right? Like, so like if you're doing a reboot, because then that's a new starting point, or if you're doing an adaptation, that's your own version of it. I'm like, technically anything's fair game, but if you stray away from what made it successful in the first place, you may not find your audience, and you just have to be okay with it. It's not for everyone. Like, you know, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is not for me. They did not make that movie with Phil in mind. I'm like, this is not what I want from Superman, but fine. Some of it's cool.
Was not for me.
Some of it's not. And so that's what I would say about those. For a sequel, I have stricter rules. I'm like, a sequel is a part of something that's already up and running. It continues the lore. So like, a sequel and or a prequel, they both are part of an existing lore, and it's supposed to connect. So when you do that, you gotta respect what came before you. And you gotta like play off of the avenues that are left open by those entries, not just bullshit and make shit up. Because then you derail the whole thing and you break the immersion for people. It's like, I was with this franchise, but now I'm like, I know that's where the characters end up and that's how it ends. And I'm like, that's not fun. Then you have to create your own headcanon just to feel better. And it's just like, that's not what it is. So if you're going to do a sequel, you got to play ball. You got to be part of a team and a lineage, and you have to respect what came before. As far as anything else, I think that I think with a remake, I guess is the last place I'll stop, is once again, you technically can do whatever you want, but here's the thing. I think my favorite remakes have found that balance between, we want to bring back like the iconic and beloved things that you enjoyed before. However, we do have a slightly new context or a new lens. We have something new to say with it, because that's what makes it worth remaking. Because if you're just going to say the exact same thing the exact same way, then I might as well just watch the original. So, I want you to, if you're going to remake something, if you're going to do, and I love this, and we'll probably talk about this more in future episodes, but I love this in video games right now. We're in that remake era because video games are finally old enough that they're like, hey, let's bring back this old ass thing and see what we can do with it now.
Update it.
Yeah. And I love the Resident Evil remakes, especially 2 and 4.
You're right here.
And I like, I don't want to spoil it for people. I like Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though that one kind of falls into requel or reimagining territory, but I still really like it. And I think the cool thing about both of those, all those examples, is that what I loved about the base original game is still in there, but they have created so much more room to expand upon it. Like entire conversations that the characters didn't have time to have in the original. The detailed graphics and getting to see them realized in kind of a photorealistic way. The gameplay that's updated, because the old gameplay would be a kind of, stuck if they just recreated that. So if you're going to remake something, definitely bring something new to the table, but just don't go so far off the rails that you're like, I don't recognize this thing anymore. So I guess those are my rules for each of those specific categories. Everyone's got their own barometer. And I've been on both sides of it. I've definitely watched and enjoyed some things that were, like I said, like Constantine, like that's pretty far from where it started. But I love that movie and I accept it for what it is. But I will never defend it against another fan, because I'm like, if you love Constantine, you kind of got screwed. I'm sorry about that, man. And I've also been on the other side where I'm like, this is my thing. I love this thing, and why are they doing this to this thing? So, it's an interesting debate, and interesting conversation to have with people. But
because anybody can fall on that spectrum,
right?
Anybody can. It depends on how you were introduced to said character, right? That changes your perception about it. Just because I can, if I've never seen Superman and Man of Steel is my first initial entrance into Superman, then I might like it. You know what I mean? I may love it, but if I have been watching, loving this character for so long, and then you choose to do a completely different spin on it, it's kind of like, well, so who asked you to do that? You know what I mean? Like, what did I, why did we? But yeah, I completely agree with you. Like all of those track in terms of remake and all those things, stay true to the character, and if you need to expand the things around it, you know what I mean, give them more dialogue, give them update the things that, or the town that they inhabit, but stay true to the character, because if you change the environment, I'm even cool with that. But it's like you drop them it's like fish out of pond, or fish out of the pond. Like you drop them in the middle of it. At least they're staying true to their character, and we're seeing how they would traverse this type of world, then that in itself is also incredibly interesting, just because then it creates all this new dialogue that stays true to this character. Like it's there's so many things that you can be able to do, but just do not change what we've come to know. Like, don't take Sonic and then put him in green, say that this is Green Hill Zone, and then you completely changed Green Hill Zone. You know what I mean? Like, what we've come to know, like, actually just change whatever Green Hill Zone is and don't call it that. You know what I mean? Like, it's those things that they have to, you have to care enough about.
Right.
And if you're going to expand on the story of beloved characters such as those.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree.
It's what 100%. I like about the MCU. They have created their own version of the 616 universe. I'm not sure why they call it. I mean, that's a whole thing. But like, they create their own version of the 616 universe, and their stories may echo things from the comics. Some of the subtitles of the movies may be lifted from the comics, but they're doing their version of it under their circumstances. Right. Yeah. Like, you know, like, it's like, hey, the personality traits you love about this character, they're still here. But the circumstances of what they've lived through so far, they're going to be different, because comic books have a 60, 70, 80 plus year history. And then like these movies only have so many movies we can make with them. So like the things they've been through are different. They're going to be slightly different, but like what you love about them, whether it's Peter Parker's charm or Iron Man's overconfidence or Cap's altruism, like these things are still there. They're just going through maybe slightly different variations of what you would expect them to go through.
As long as you are, and you were saying this a little bit earlier, Phil, as long as you are open and honest and upfront about what we are getting, like, give us the choice to be able to say, like, I'm up for that, as opposed to selling it to us that this is what this is, when we know for certain, looking at it, that that's not what it is.
Right. No, I feel like that's tough when Hollywood tries to do a live adaptation of like an anime. Like, one I always use as an example is Death Note. They never said it was a reimagination or whatever, but when you hear Death Note, you know, or at least you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Everyone's familiar with what a Death Note is, or has heard the name before, whether they've seen the anime or not. And I feel like when you use a name like that and you go and see the film and realize, oh, they lied to me. This is not what I thought it was at all. It's like, and then as fans who actually seen the anime and know the material, go in it and also reiterate the same exact thing. It's like, no, this is not Death Note. I don't know what this is. It's like, it goes back to not caring about the original content, the what made Death Note what it was. And not to say that they haven't done it right ever again, but I feel like after that they knew better. Like, that was the point where they knew, okay, maybe we shouldn't touch an anime ever again, because this fan base is really passionate about this stuff. And they are. Like, anime fans are passionate about turning these projects or turning these animes into live actions. Like, they don't want it, but if you're gonna do it right. And I feel like that's what One Piece did for the fans. Like, they actually reached out to the creator. They actually reached out to they talked to people. They communicated with people. There was a lot of teamwork involved with the project. And as me who's never seen One Piece ever, I went into it not knowing all I knew was about pirates. That's it. Just about pirates. That's all I knew. But I went into it, open-minded. My expectations were low because I've seen what Netflix has done to these anime live adaptations before. So I was, my expectations were here. But once I finished the series, I was like, wow,
it's so good.
Okay, so they are able to, pull off a good adaptation if they do the work, if they go out and actually show that they care about these projects to cater to the fans, because the fan base for One Piece would have destroyed Netflix if it was trash. They would have destroyed them. But
everybody was already skeptical.
Yes, they were. But it was good. It was a good adaptation. It was good. So yeah. I just feel like as long as you put in the work, show that you care, talk to the creators if you can, if they're alive, if they're even there. But no, I do want to say that as long as you show care to the original source material, especially with anime, you don't have to verbatim do what they did, but use it as a source, as some example of what you could possibly do, even if you come up with your own storylines. Like, that's fine. Just keep the heart of the characters there, keep the spirit there with them, and do your own storylines. That's totally fine. But don't change it completely to where it could be something entirely different. That's just me, though.
Yeah, they're coming out with another Death Note live action. Yeah, they're
what?
Yeah, they're doing another Death Note live action adaptation. I don't know if it's still being talked about, but the Duffer Brothers, who did Stranger Things wants to pick up the mantle for Death Note. And yeah, it was announced back in like July 2022.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it will be written and executive produced by, please forgive me if I mispronounce this, but Halia Abdul Maguid, who is a longtime fan of the manga, which that alone is grounds for like peaking a little bit. So it makes you wonder, like, as long as you say that you're a longtime fan, then that makes me
can go either
feel a little better about
that. Could go either way. I'm over here like
that could go either way. I agree. Sometimes people say that they are fans and we find out that they really aren't.
Or sometimes they are.
They say that they're fans and they don't even like. They probably watched only like a couple episodes and haven't even finished the entire thing. Like,
yeah, see, that's not no.
But sometimes people, I think, genuinely are fans, but like they still have their own, like they're just whatever their storytelling style is, or their ability, or whatever, like, or what they like about the characters and story, maybe just like off on its own tip. I believe that Zack Snyder loves the DC Comics characters. I just think he and I draw different conclusions about what's important about each of those characters. And that's fine. So like, whenever I hear like so-and-so's a fan, I'm like, yeah, but do they have the right vocabulary to, creative vocabulary to like, really do a rendition of this that feels in the same spirit or satisfying for fans. And I think that that's subjective for one, but I think that that's important. So I never like it's nice to hear someone's a fan, like that like makes me believe like at least they're really taking a swing at it. At least they want to make something good. But like whether or not they can make something good with it, being a fan isn't enough.
And it's not like I've seen a bunch of the Duffer Brothers work. I've only ever seen Stranger Things. So I don't really, just because they've done well with Stranger Things, I don't know how well they'll do with like an anime live adaptation. I don't know.
I can appreciate.
I don't know.
I can appreciate their ability to tell a story
in Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's all they gave. well, I'm saying like even with that, like they could have messed that up tremendously, but they found a way to make that as entertaining as possible. You know what I mean? And across the board, internationally. So like I feel as though they have the ability to do that further down the line. Now, past shows that they've done, which is like Wayward Pines, which I was kind of intrigued about. It was like a Fox show at the time. It didn't last. Some other things, Hidden Abraham's Boys, We All Fall Down, and The Burrows. All of those shows I've never heard of before.
Never heard of those.
I've never heard of a lot of those before, but I can appreciate their ability to be able to tell a story. I think it has worked for them in the past, and I think that they are now on a trajectory where they understand what works and what doesn't work. I'm hoping.
No, I'm with you on that. I just feel like I know that they could tell a good story from what I've seen in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But it's different when you're telling a story that you created versus something that's already been created.
Agreed.
And I don't know if they're gonna stick to the original content or make their own thing out of it. That's my thing. I don't know if, I just don't want them to mess up the original stuff. That's all.
Yeah. Going back to Rian Johnson, I love Looper. I think that's a dope movie. I love Knives Out. I love Glass Onion. I'm not the biggest fan of The Last Jedi. So, it's just I don't think somebody making a poor adaptation is like a knock on their skills per se. It just may be like a matchup problem,
Yeah, absolutely. But I do have a recommendation for y'all. If y'all have not seen, I know we're talking about like reboots and remakes and sequels and all that, but one that I always recommend, I don't know if anybody's ever seen The Shining, but if you have seen The Shining and you have not seen Dr. Sleep, I definitely recommend that. Dr. Sleep is a sequel to The Shining. And The Shining, obviously, we know came out years ago. And I think Dr. Sleep came out, I want to say,
it was fairly recent.
It was recent.
2018.
2019.
Oh, close.
It's a really, like, creative wise, knowing The Shining is like this horror based film, whereas Dr. Sleep takes it on a more fantasy ride, and it's like it elevates the story of where The Shining came from and where it goes from there, and it's much deeper than just horror, and something I really enjoyed. And it wasn't the most watched film. It didn't get the most love or publicity or whatever, because I don't know what was happening in 2019 during that time, but when I saw it with the wife, we were both like, wow, this movie is great in terms of like, if you're into that fantasy powers, like it was so different from like the horror The Shining film. It makes me want to go and read those books, honestly, to see like where was Stephen King's mind at when he created those two different projects or wrote those two different books, and how do they connect so well together. So that's one I recommend for sure.
I like that they waited in terms of I like that they waited in order to make that film the way that it should be realized. I think it's a possibility that he might have, I don't know when the original story was made, right? But had he written it around the time that The Shining came out, it probably would have been a little bit more difficult to execute that on film, considering all of the supernatural and all of the special effects of it all. It might have been a little bit tougher to do, execute. So waiting until 2019.
Graphic wise back then still were good for that time. Like they were good. Like the whole classic scene of the blood coming down the hallway shot was fantastic. Huge. The whole scene at the end of him or them being trapped in a maze, like a lot of that stuff in there, the two little twin scary Shining girls, like a lot of the stuff they did was really dope. And I love the fact that they took the story of because the story in Dr. Sleep is the character is the young boy in The Shining, and now he's grown up in this Dr. Sleep movie, and they explain what he went through during the movie and why he is the way he is in Dr. Sleep. So a lot of the stuff they did, I definitely agree with you, Skip. Them waiting to do this film up until technology was up to
do
par.
it right.
Yeah, they could do it right. Agreed.
That's dope.
Is that also Ewan McGregor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor is a beast.
Yeah.
He is a beast.
Yeah, he is. He loves fantasy. I dig it.
When this film was announced, I remember being intrigued just because it is, is a sequel to The Shining, but I was just like,
yeah.
I remember being curious about, like, do they take more inspiration from the book or the film, as far as like proper preparation for this movie. And I think I've heard conflicting reports, so I have no idea how well it syncs up with the film The Shining, or if it's a better companion to the book The Shining. But I do want to check it out, so that's a great recommendation. Thanks for that. I'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll do a marathon, maybe I'll watch The Shining and watch that, who knows. Ewan McGregor's a great time.
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm there for it.
He's just so good. I love his commitment to whatever he does. It's like he knows how to work a green screen. or to believably talk to something that is clearly not there. Which is really great. He's been doing it for a while, like Moulin Rouge and all of these like really CGI heavy films that he's made to be to like some really, really like strong films that he where you have to suspend belief and that are very fantastical in a particular way. And so he's really expanded his horizons, and we're all happy for it, just because we know if Ewan McGregor is linked to a particular project, that is probably going to go well.
Yeah,
I definitely recommend.
My recommendation is A League of Their Own, because I just really want people to hear this and see this. So A League of Their Own obviously is an iconic film from the 90s, covering the time that in America where we had a women's baseball league, Major League Baseball league. So the movie is iconic and great, and it has Tom Hanks, and it has Madonna, and it has Gina Davis, and it has there's no crying in baseball and all that great stuff. What I love about this new version, this series on Amazon Prime, is that they take all of those elements and like they'll sprinkle some of those like iconic lines and moments in there, but like they reinterpret like who they happen to or why they happen in the story. But more importantly, they're able to just go deeper into what that time period was like. A League of Their Own push boundaries for the 90s, but as far as the 90s would let you push. Whereas A League of Their Own 2022 or whatever it was, you're able to just be straight up and say like, yeah, a lot of these women were queer. What happened to all the black women who didn't get to play? Like, what's their story? And like, how are these people treated? What happened when the police got involved? All of these things that like the 90s movie just probably could not speak on, or at least not to the degree that they probably wanted to. And the show gets to just go all in and pull no punches. And like it still has the magic of being hilarious. It's still a dramedy, and it just has really great chemistry with the cast. I like all of the characters, and the way they interact with each other is just such a delight. These women are just phenomenal together. So A League of Their Own, I highly recommend.
It's on my list.
That I've been interested in trying to see. I think I initially started it. I am a huge fan of the 90s film.
Yeah, same.
And so like I was a little afraid
of course.
To step into it with all of these known faces. There were a lot of, because we had Girl from Broad City, actress from Broad City. I can't think of her name. Her name escapes me right now. And then you also have the actress from Good Place.
Yep.
And like a lot of the different actresses. I don't know. I don't know if I have made a recommendation in my mind as to what I know an unpopular opinion that I thought that I loved a lot, which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, starring Jessica Biel.
Interesting.
That at the time for me, I thought was like a really, really cool remake. It was stylized, and it was done by like a music video director.
Was it Rob Zombie?
But
did he do that one, or was it somebody else?
No, I think. Okay, let me check really quickly.
Rob Zombie did the Halloween.
He did.
Yeah, he absolutely did the Halloweens. Which
he did. This was done by a pretty. Okay, well, I definitely don't know who that is. Marcus Nispel. But you could tell by like how it's filmed that it was filmed by a music video director, I guess you could say.
Okay.
But then the way that they took the story and completely revamped it and made it really thrilling, I thought. And it kind of keeps you on your toes like during the whole time. I thought it was really, really cool. It's one of my favorite films that I haven't seen in a while, but that to me was a pretty great remake. Made me a fan of Jessica Biel. I know we all saw her in like Seventh Heaven years ago, but like it took her to like another echelon of like Scream Queen, and seeing that she could actually do some really, really great things. I'm not so sure like how it still holds up just because I haven't seen it in so long. I just remember
it's definitely the best one out of the ones that came out after it. I'll tell you that
much. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have seen some of the ones that came out after. And,
I'll tell you that much.
Wow. Yeah,
but yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was very well done. There are certain moments that they've added to make him a little bit more menacing, Leatherface a little bit more menacing. And there were all these precursors, like they did a found footage portion where you get to see the aftermaths of what he did. And so it's like really, I don't want to give away too much, but they took a lot of different elements that you have come to know about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and have expanded them and made them a little bit more modern and forward. Oh, also the Chucky TV series, which would be considered a requel.
Yeah, that's on my list to watch too.
That one, I was actually thoroughly surprised. I think I went into it expecting, I don't know, a flop, an Aubrey Plaza type of remake.
Man, that.
Oh my gosh, it was. Boy. I didn't even want to get into it. But the Chucky TV series, I think they expand so much more on the lore. They create a whole lot more of. With each episode, they drop more of his origin story, and they expand on his lore. They expand on his history, because we only see him as a criminal right before death in Child's Play. You know what I mean? And so like you get to see how he became that, what his psyche is like, and then they bring back the original Andy, and they are really like moving forward with a lot of the lore and creating like this whole other forefront of new characters from a completely different standpoint. It's an interesting watch, I would say. I haven't gotten, because they're on like 3rd season now, and I haven't gotten past the 2nd season, and it's really taken off. So if you haven't, check it out.
It's on my list. No, I'm glad you recommended that. It's been on my list for a while to check out because I've heard the same. I've heard it was great, especially if you've watched like the previous Chucky films, the original ones. Like it's there for you. Like that show is for you guys.
They're great.
That that Audrey Plaza one. I'm not gonna get into it. That one pissed me off so bad. I get it. I hate that they changed the voice of Chucky. Don't get me wrong, bro.
The voice,
I love Mark Hamill. But you did not have to.
No,
you did not have to change the anything of Chucky. He could have been exactly the same as the previous films.
Goodness gracious.
Whatever.
Mark Hamill,
man.
Not a Chucky fan, but you know what? I appreciate that they went in depth and like again just expanded upon what was already there. I saw the original Child's Play when I was an adult, because as a child I was like, nope.
No, I was terrified.
Nope. I got nightmares off the commercials. I was like,
I just had
oh my
parents,
gosh,
man. My parents just introduced us to horror first. I was a kid watching that stuff. So
I mean, I watched horror. I just did not specifically watch Chucky. Child's Play.
Yeah,
Child's Play was
Chucky terrified me. Yeah, I was, as a kid, that was my number one fear, was Chucky.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Aliens, like all sorts of bizarre stuff. I'm like, the living toy, no.
I draw the line.
Living toy.
I loved toys when I was a kid. I had so many action figures. I was just like, the idea of it just messed me up. But I did eventually go back and watch the first one.
Unnerving way of his...
The way he moved. Yeah, I will say
the way he moved. I hated it.
The way they puppeteered him was excellent, because he was creepy as fuck for those first
creepy
3 films. And then once you got to Bride of Chucky, I was like...
That's when they started getting silly.
Yeah, it got really silly, and he didn't look as threatening anymore. They tried too hard. Like, he's all scarred up and whatever. And
they had a kid. Like, it was a bunch of stuff. They had a whole child and Seed of Chucky. It was like a...
I'm not scared of this dude. It's okay.
There's Cult of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky wasn't so bad.
I haven't seen that one, I don't think.
Cult of Chucky was like a straight to video, and it wasn't so bad. Yeah, it was good. I'm straight.
No, I appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening. This was a really dope conversation. We will be back with some very, very fun stuff in the future. Again, this isn't the first official pod, but when we come with the first official pod, it'll be the best you will ever hear and listen to. So that being said, this is Hard Mode Selected. Out.
Peace.
Peace.